Jeremiah Love breaks free. Jeremiah Love trying to go 98. Touchdown! What a run in the first touchdown of the 12-team playoff.
This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Anzio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik for the touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And yet we come off another weekend of some pretty damn good evidence in college football. There's so much going on, and if we get to it later in the show, from the Ryder Cup that weekend, baseball playoffs, NFL, and more, we'll do all that if we can, but we've got a lot of college football to digest and also discuss. Paul Catalina is to my left. Craig Smoak is to my right. I'm David Smoak, and thank you very much for your time. If you have not yet hit the like button or subscribe to the channel, please do. We would appreciate that. So we'll start with bangers, and we will get into a deeper dive into the entire Big 12, and we'll have some Big 12 notes, including a coordinator who's been fired, a head coach in the SEC fired, all of that. But Oregon goes in, and they beat Penn State in overtime. Aller with the pick, and 111,000 jammed into what they thought would be a Nittany Lions win. Hell of a game. Good game last year. Oregon won it this year and last year. Dan Lanning was crazy and psycho, as you saw maybe after the game. But the Ducks make the plays. Penn State, when they came back, I didn't know if they could get 14, but when they came back to have that fourth quarter, I thought the momentum would carry over, but it did not.
Yeah, Oregon scored, to take a 2-score lead, and I thought, man, this is done. And Penn State, for the first time ever, really valiantly comes back, and overtime's a weird, messy thing, but they again didn't do it. And whatever the narrative for James Franklin's going to be, isn't going to change until he does that. And that one was the one that I think, especially for him trying to say, okay, this is the time to break through, all of those things he's been trying to say about Penn State. Well, this was a whiteout at home. This was an opportunity you had to win. And for 3 quarters, they couldn't get a first down. I mean, they could not move the ball. And it wasn't until the fourth quarter when, crunch time was in. And look, congratulations to Drew Aller and Andy Kolnicki and the offense for doing what they did. But in the end, the same result happened. It's an L for the Nittany Lions.
Paul, thank you, Craig. Before you respond, this is from Brandon Koritz. This is James Franklin at Penn State. Now, again, it's hard to beat teams that are ranked high, but 1-15 against top 5 opponents, 4-21 against teams in the top 10, 15-30 against the top 25, and then combined Michigan, Ohio State, 4-17. And now, of course, that includes the loss, Craig, at home in what was an incredible environment at Penn State.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better environment-wise than what Penn State had going there on Saturday night. So, that's something I would love to experience firsthand. They do whiteout better than anybody. I mean, it's not one of those you see at a lot of places where there's like scatterings of little strips of like red or even navy blue or whatever. I mean, it's a pure whiteout, pure as the driven snow. Unfortunately, it doesn't always result in wins, as we saw on Saturday night for James Franklin and company. And I mean, there's people rattling off all sorts of records like this. So when it comes to his resume, and those all look pretty damning. There's a couple more I saw that are just in line with this. 15 consecutive losses to opponents ranked number 6 or higher, 2-21 against teams ranked in the top 6 of the AP top 25. So you could like massage this 1,000 ways from Sunday. And the point is that James Franklin does not win the big games, especially in the Big Ten, especially against, I guess, big games, obviously being ranked teams. And that's just a stigma that he can't shake for whatever reason, man. It's just something that sticks with him. And I thought that maybe they were going to shake it on Saturday night, and that furious fourth quarter rally was going to result in just the crowd getting them over the hump and a big moment for Aller or the running backs or whoever. I felt like somebody was going to step up and make a play, and that comeback was going to not be for naught. And yet here we are at the end talking about the same type of result. So you almost wish they just wouldn't have done that, just because you just lose the game, but get your hopes up and then lose in crushing fashion with an interception there at the end. So, brutal loss for Penn State. Just more of the same medicine that they can't seem to shake. And for Oregon, what a big boy, big time, awesome, kick-ass type of win on the road against a great opponent. And y'all asked me last Friday, I believe it was, we briefly talked about the Heisman odds, and we were saying, who is your favorite now that John Mateer's basically taken off to the side? And I said, Dante Moore seems like a logical choice. And he certainly established himself as probably the lead guy after this weekend with that performance. He was great. Drew Aller, kind of like his head coach. He has great moments, but he can't seem to shake those big, bad moments as well. And so we got a little taste of that as, at the same time. And so for Penn State, just more of the same, unfortunately.
And the difference for Penn State is that when it comes to look, for most of the game, it's not like Oregon was running away with it and then blew a gigantic lead. They got out to a 2-score lead, and then Penn State, sacked up and tied the game and sent it to overtime. And that was really good. But when it came down to it, the same thing continues to happen. Nobody's probably better. He's second to none at recruiting big, strong guys on both lines. And he's really good at recruiting running backs and tight ends and all of that. But when it comes down to who are the speedy guys on the outside on both sides of the ball, Oregon it's 10-1 on every roster that it should be comparable to at Penn State. Everybody's got like 10 guys that can run circles around the fastest guy at Penn State. And that's where he's lacking. And I just struggle to see how he continues to kind of whiff on that. It's very weird considering the kind of talent that's out there and the opportunity to play with a steady quarterback like Drew Aller, who's a good player, and a running game that's really good.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's hard. Again, it's hard to win games against top 5. I'm going to give you a little nugget here in a minute, but it's not that he's not winning. Bobby Bowden, Tom Osborne, name one or two others that could not win a national title. Mac Brown, it took forever, even longer for Bowden and Osborne. They were knocking on the door all of the time, but their record among ranked teams against ranked teams was stellar. They just could not win the national championship. The only coaches among the Power Four, and I don't have Marcus Freeman's number, that have a record of 500, above 500, like 5-5 doesn't count. Kalen DeBoer, Kirby Smart, Ryan Day, Lincoln Riley, Dan Lanning, and Dabo Swinney have records above 500 against top 25 teams. Some of them are like dominant. Obviously, Saban had a massive record. Fran Brown was 3-1 entering the year, and so he's at least, we think, maybe 4-1 or so ever, but has only had 4 of those games. Lanning's only had 10. It's hard, but when you are where you are with that kind of commitment, with that kind of recruiting, with that kind of fan base, the pressure's on. His record is against top 25, not very good either, but especially in the game that matters.
Yeah, I mean, I'll slightly disagree with Paul. I mean, I think you saw that there was a little bit of that outside. Devontae Ross, Trevor Pena, like it wasn't all running game and Drew Aller. Like those guys had they're part of the big fourth quarter, right? Like there was a lot of nothing there for a while, though, to your point. And then finally in the fourth quarter, I think it basically saved you from feeling like this was a total disaster, was the fact that they did fight back, did rally, and did have a chance there in overtime to win this football game. So it wasn't as though you just got trucked. And I know I kind of said a few minutes ago, you almost rather you do that than get your hopes up. And I don't really mean that all the way. You definitely rather lose a close game than get blown out. It's just the emotions suck when you get teased like that. But I felt like the fight was something, if you're looking for a positive out of this game, that you can cling on to if you're a Penn State fan. I know that doesn't soothe your feelings all that much, but I don't think that this is like the end of the line for Penn State. It feels like a massive loss, but as we know, especially in this era, we're going to see them some more. And they've got a bunch of big opportunities remaining, and they still very well and most likely will be in the playoff, depending on how the next few weeks go, obviously. But I think they're a good team. I don't know how to explain, though, the drought against the top teams, the ranking stats. I don't know how you explain that, because there are other coaches who have had similar situations. They eventually get out of it. So it's just a matter of just give James Franklin 5 more years and eventually he's going to break out and win that national title? Or is this just some very weird thing that he cannot shake for whatever reason? And it's just like, how long does this go on? Like, when does he finally shake that? And here we are, and it's another year where it feels like the first massive game on your lap, you let it go away again. And so, man, beyond frustrating for Penn State fans.
How do you fire a guy? Like, if there's Penn State fans out there that want to fire him, which, believe me, I wouldn't advocate at all.
Oh, no.
That's 10-2 and 9-3 most years, and 8-4 in a year where they have injuries and the roster gets cleaned out. So if you're an 8-4 tragedy year in modern, look, I understand, like, especially after watching games this weekend and everybody freaking out because a team might have a loss. Like, we need to freak out when they have 2 and 3 losses. Like, that's when they're out.
They still got to play Ohio State. So if they go lose to Ohio State, you got a couple losses to the 2 best teams that you play. You know, if you go to the playoff and you're one and done, then that's when I think there's reason to go, okay, like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Right. But not after this game in particular.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, like, what do you do? Like, what's out there that's going to make, like, who's going to take them that step further that they need? Because he's taking them they're on the 5-yard line every year. Like, he's just not good in the red zone.
There hasn't been many 30-3s in that time.
They don't. And, the only thing I can compare it to is when John Gruden took over the Bucs and won the Super Bowl the next year, Tony Dungy had built that team the front office had built that team about as well as you can. They just didn't have an offensive scheme that could win. John Gruden came in with a team that Tony Dungy built and won the Super Bowl because that's what they needed. He
took switcher with the Cowboys.
Yeah,
doesn't take it away from them. Yeah.
But then what did John Gruden do in his career after that point? Nothing.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a guy that can come in and win right away for you.
Yeah.
But can he build the team in the long-term sustained success like James Franklin can? And I don't know, because Franklin's done a fantastic job.
With anybody that's coached at least 10 games against somebody ranked in the top 5, just to put this in perspective, the only coaches with a 500 or over 500 record, and I'm talking about the elite, Frank Leahy, remember the book that was written by Ivan Maisel? This is with 10 games or more. Urban Meyer, Barry Switzer, Nick Saban, John McKay, USC, Dabo Sweeney, Lloyd Carr when he was at Michigan, Woody Hayes, and then it goes downhill after that. Even the best of the best that we know, Spurrier under 500, Paterno, Osborne, Bowden, all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a hard thing to do. It's to beat good teams. So, I mean, nobody's saying that this is unique to James Franklin and that he's the only head coach that can't beat the the big teams on his schedule. It's something that's happened in the past, but it's a question now of, okay, when does that change, if that does change? And that's something at this point, with as long as he's been around, that you have to be wondering about if you're a Penn State fan. Now, I don't think that should be the biggest story out of this weekend. I don't think that he was the quarterback for his team, not playing all that well in the big moment like Drew Aller was, who was a guy very much hyped up, especially about a year or so ago. He's a guy I liked a lot, but the more I've watched him, the more that I kind of agree with the rest of what it feels like the country believes, is that he's a good quarterback, but he's not like great, right? I definitely think he got out-dueled by Dante Moore, which, given the experience differences, I don't think is a great look for Aller. But it's really tough to win those games, and so Penn State goes back to the drawing board. And I think when Ohio State rolls around, or God forbid they get nipped by somebody they're not expecting to, then this conversation will continue on until he proves otherwise. But I think just as much as the stories about Franklin and whatever like temperature the seat is in Happy Valley, or Drew Aller just not being like the dude like some other quarterbacks seem to be across the country at this point in his career, I think there's still a lot to like. I still think they're probably a playoff team. And I think they may not be as good as Ohio State or Oregon, but they're still one of the top 15 teams in the country. And I know that's not what Penn State fans want to necessarily hear, but given that we're not even at the halfway point yet, it's okay. It's fine, and we'll just see how the rest of it plays out. But it also should be just as much about Oregon rolling into as crazy of an environment as possible and, representing that brand and doing their damn thing on that field.
Like you would expect them to play the way Dan Lanning coaches his team.
Yeah, they went out there and did their thing. And so Oregon deserves a ton of credit for jumping out and grabbing that lead, forcing Penn State into a situation where they had to rally. Now, obviously, they didn't do a good job of closing that game out in regulation, but they took care of business in overtime. So that was a game where I saw some people picking Oregon, but I felt like the atmosphere was really swaying. Like, oh, man, they got to go into the whiteout. They got to go into Happy Valley. They went in there and by the end, controversially, were blowing kisses and throwing middle fingers at the crowd and loving every minute of it. I was impressed by the Ducks.
No, they didn't surprise me they won. I guess maybe it wasn't so much the 111,000, the whiteout. I just felt like with you have a veteran quarterback like Aller, that maybe this was his moment. Their last 3 losses by 8 to Oregon last year. Ohio State lost by 7, lost by 3 to Notre Dame in the playoff. So they're right there. I would rather have my football team be right there, because you never know when all of a sudden you end up going into a long drought and you're never right there. So there was a couple of other of the bangers. Alabama, remember them? Lost for dead after the loss to Florida State. They go into Georgia. That game made me sore. That was a banger. Oregon, Penn State was huge because how high both were ranked. That Alabama-Georgia game, I'm watching it with my friend Eric Horton, and I told him, I said, I'm going to be sore watching this game. 2 great teams as far as talent and depth, and Alabama found a way. And I'm telling you, I was so impressed with Tyler Simpson. Even though that game was a banger at the end, I thought Tyler Simpson was marvelous. And is Alabama back? Well, we'll tell you where they are when it comes to the rankings, but that game almost like it seems like it eliminated what happened earlier this year.
Well, I mean, like, you can just look at it. The league teams are very even. And look, there's not a lot of difference to me between the talent level of Ty Simpson and Gunnar Stockton. They're both pretty good. They're both gamers. Kirby Smart made a really questionable decision not to kick it and tie it when he could stupid. Have. I mean, yeah.
I know hindsight's 20/20, but I found that to be just the dumbest thing in the world. Like,
yeah. They were – I understand going for it on 4th and 3 with a college kicker if you're at the 35-yard line, but they're at the 13.
It was not quite an extra point, but it was basically a chip shot. Yeah.
If you passed on a chance to tie the game, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing.
And then you only got the ball back one more time and then screwed it up on a launching penalty. And then screwed all that up on the launching penalty and all those things. It just wasn't good. And Ty Simpson's a really good player. I mean, he's a gamer.
Compared to how he looked against Florida State, and give the Seminoles defense credit, but compared to how he looked, he's still young and inexperienced, I thought he was Like, he reminded me of the cookie cutter quarterbacks, not Milroe or Hurts or Tua, but the cookie cutter quarterbacks that Saban loved to have as his starter.
Okay, and I think also, and I'll use my time to jump on my soapbox about this, I just saw so many people reacting to this team might be a fraud or that team might be a fraud or because they lost one game. I'm like, well, now with as much parity as we have in college football, we need to grade it like the NFL a little bit more. Maybe not exactly, but matchups matter. So, look, maybe Florida State is not quite as good as we thought they were, or are they? I don't know. They lost a game. Maybe Alabama's better than we thought they were. Maybe Florida State is a bad matchup for them schematically.
Yeah.
Maybe like those things matter when you come down to it. Everybody's got weaknesses, and it's about who can exploit those on a certain day. Penn State may never lose again. They may never lose again. Oregon may just be the team that is no matter what they do, they're just going to beat them because they're this much better or have that kind of guys. Why is everybody throwing the baby out with the bathwater on teams when they lose one game? I don't get it.
I think it's because they lost the Alabama, even though it was in Tallahassee, which normally would be, oh my God, you got they lost to a program that had lost its luster and got beat pretty good doing it. And that's why, and Alabama's not supposed to lose, right? They're not supposed to lose games, and they proved more of who they were perhaps in the win against Georgia rather than when they lost the game or early in the year, open the season against Florida State.
I think part of it is that people are still conditioned to believe that one loss like ruins your season.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been the case for like 5 years now. So I think it's just a bunch of people in their 40s and 30s and 50s and above that feel like this is the old days still, and that one loss sinks you, or they just overreact to the one loss as though it's a death knell, and it's not. So maybe it's some of that, especially when it occurs so early that you just assume, well, yeah, it's just one loss, but they still got 10 games left. Like, there's no way they're going to go 10-0. Well,
Right.
Alabama might go 10-0. So you think that early loss is going to be a handcuff on a team, but that might not be the case based on what we've seen from Alabama in response to that. And I also think, too, that just quite frankly, that kind of headline is way more attractive to get people up in arms and reacting of like, oh, the death of Alabama, or the dynasty's over, or, things like that, as opposed to Alabama takes one. Can they rebound? That doesn't get as much attention as the dynasty is dead in the water. DeBoer is on the hot seat. Like, that's the stuff that draws people in. So the moment that you smell a little bit of blood in the water, I mean, the entire country was talking about DeBoer being gone for like a week after that loss. And now here we are. He may well end up being coach of the year, if Dan Lanning slips up or something, or any of the other contenders slip up. So, yeah, I just think it's just overreaction. It's overreaction because that's what we do now to everything. And it's also, I think, just not realizing that early losses don't really matter as much as they used to, and that you can take one on the chin and you can still be A-OK and right yourself. And Alabama's doing that right in front of our eyes right now.
Do you know how many teams since 1990 have won either the AP or the UPI national championship with more than one loss? I'm just kind of glancing through this, probably 3. So we're used to that, probably 3. And some of those might not have been a UPI or AP. We're used to 13-0. Now it's, of course, 16 or 17. So, yeah, it's let the thing play itself out. Alabama's bounced back. Good for them. Georgia probably will, too, and Florida State will be right back in the mix themselves. And we'll get to their loss to Virginia late Friday here in just a moment.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama's a brand new starting quarterback on the road against a team that was much improved, and it was in the top 10 as recently as this past week. So yeah, we all overreacted to that and should probably have given more credit to Florida State. But I mean, the temptation to just sit there and crown these big storylines as this or that is just too tempting, I guess. And so we needed to say that Alabama was dead after they lost the very first game of the year. But they're sitting there with other ideas in mind, and now we'll overreact to the fact they won this game, and they'll be like, Alabama's back, and then they'll lose again, and we'll go, no, they're not. DeBoer sucks, and like that's what we do here. Not us necessarily,
and we'll get to the bangers, and that's one of them coming up. Yeah,
and look, I should know that we as American sports fans and people don't really remember history all that well, or don't watch trends, or don't compare things. I should know that, and it just frustrates me, but I can compare it to several different things throughout other sports. And the one thing I'll come back to is The Yankees have won 27 World Series, right? How many have they won since Curt Flood came along? A lot less than they did before Curt Flood. So dynasties in the way that we knew them in college football are over. That's not to say that there won't be a team and somebody who figures it out and corners the market in a way that the others aren't, but a Nick Saban 17-year chokehold over.
Yeah.
It's over.
No, that's a great point to compare it to teams that used to have 15, 20 world championships or even in Super Bowls. Here's one note. 2007 LSU, Garrett, 1960 Minnesota, and last year's Ohio State, the last teams to have 2 losses, that the only team since 1960 to have 2 losses and win either the AP or the Coaches National Championship. So you're right. Go ahead. You going to add something else?
Yeah, I think we haven't talked at all about the game because we're sitting here talking about these big picture things.
Yeah,
and this is what also happens is like the most popular thing to do in week 3 of the season is to talk about the playoff projection.
Yeah.
I wasn't even doing that though. You're right though.
I think that kind of sucks though. It's like, I see it too. And I'm like, we'd be tempted, like, let's just talk the playoff the whole time because clearly it gets a reaction, but like, that's just not what I like to do in week 4 or 5 of the season. I know we're getting to that point where it's going to be the large part of the conversation, but yeah, I heard a lot of people bitching about, well, this week to week, and it doesn't matter. The same people saying that college football's changed are the one pushing the playoff projection in like week 2 of the season and just focusing on that. So I think we've gotten lost in some cases in a lot of the big picture, the coach or the playoff spot or the dynasty or how about just the win or the loss? And that was a great game and very impressive on Alabama's part to go into Athens, Georgia and go take that. And that was a hell of a game. It was a banger, like you said. I mean, not just from a ranked team standpoint, but also just a bruising, physical, nasty game, just rife with talent, and that was a joy. I'd watch that every weekend if I could.
I would love to just take 1/10 of the overall rosters of both of them combined, and I'll go win a conference championship somewhere. Tyler Simpson, I did bring up the game on that, but I understand what you're saying.
I'm talking about in general.
Yeah, no, I agree, but it was just such a freaking good game to watch. I enjoyed it without caring about who won the game. So Alabama wins. Georgia will be fine. One other banger, Ole Miss and LSU, and I know Garrett's not happy about the way that ended.
Let me give it like a quick little statistical thing on Bama. Look, they managed to win the game, and they still haven't really fixed their running game all that much yet, which is really impressive because if Alabama's going to go far, they're going to need to run the ball better than they have. But they found ways around it against a really good team, which shows you that they've got some moxie.
No, and then the Miller, who played a little bit during the game, tough running back, but doesn't look like he's going to go 60. Yeah, he'd been out. He's from Craig's alma mater at Lee High School in Tyler, and he just got back, which maybe after a game or two he gets his legs underneath of him.
Yeah. So, but to LSU and Ole Miss, Brian Kelly's got problems. It feels like he can't like put the slider in the middle of the thing and have a balanced team. They're either all one thing or all the other, and their offense is putrid right now. It is really, really bad.
I heard Mike Elko after their win, which they had the gutted out win, of course, against Auburn, which was a slugfest, say, we are winning games with one day. It's our offense that carries us against Notre Dame. The defense doesn't play well. Then we won this weekend with our defense and special teams, and the offense struggled. What's going to happen, guys, when we eventually have both click at one time? And they need to do that because that can carry you, but eventually catches up with you. And you're talking about that with LSU.
Yeah, LSU's they're out of spiritual balance or something. They've got to harness their chi or whatever they need to do. And part of it, I just think, is Brian Kelly's style maybe doesn't allow for a lot of flexibility in when they kind of pick a lane to go in, but Garrett Nussmeier hasn't played well overall up to the expectations. They like how LSU can't just like yell running back and have 10 guys like show up on campus and tote the rock. I don't understand. The same thing with the offensive line's not as good as it has been. Those things all have to be fixed. Now, look, the defense is fine. And even though Ole Miss beat them, they still played well enough to beat Ole Miss if you had even a passable offense there. But Ole Miss is better than I thought that they would be, and Lane Kiffinson is back.
Let me tell you, the quarterback from Ferris State, my goodness, Chambliss was fantastic in that game.
Yeah, I saw this one coming. This is one of the picks that I did get right and felt pretty good about. Just not a big believer in LSU offensively right now. And, yeah, Nussmeier's clearly not 100% healthy, how much that's factoring into just the overall offensive woes. I don't know how I would divvy up the percentages there, but clearly it's going to have some effect when your guy's not 100%. But even then, they've got struggles that are bigger than that. Nothing to speak of in terms of a running game. Don't quite seem to have just like the star power that they've had in years past. And just very impressed by the way that Trinidad Chambliss outplayed Garrett Nussmeier in the quarterback duel. I mean, he clearly outplayed him. I thought Ole Miss being at home would be a big factor in this game, and that's part of why I leaned that direction. But I also think Lane Kiffin outcoached Brian Kelly as well. So, like, in your most important matchups, Ole Miss checked the boxes. LSU didn't check many. I mean, yeah, the defense is stout, but like you said, Paul, there's not really a balance there to speak of right now. And so they're in a little bit of trouble if they can't get their act together on the offensive side of the ball. But that defense will likely be able to keep them competitive. I don't think the season's over by any means because of this loss. It was a very good team on the road, close game. You had a chance to win it, and you just couldn't get it done ultimately. So I think there's some positives you can take away in the fact that LSU clearly did not play their best game. Some of their best players did not play their best game, and they were still right there in the fight with a chance to win it at the end. So if you're looking to try and take something and spin it positively, I think there is that. But there are, I think, big picture concerns as well that could continue on the rest of the season and find them falling into a second or a third loss because the offense isn't operating the way that it needs to, and the defense can't hold the dam the entire time. So, yeah, that was really impressive. Great win for Lane Kiffin. Chambliss is something else, man. He's a lot of fun. And Ole Miss has got some swagger about them. They really do. I mean, I know they've been a team that's been around for a while now, hanging around, getting some big upsets, some big ranked wins here and there, but just not quite ever getting over the top. I don't know that this will be the year they do that, but they sure are fun to watch. And if they just keep knocking on that door, then they're eventually going to break through at some point. You just hope that Lane Kiffin sticks around long enough to be there to help them do that.
And then at 4:30 or so, we will go deep into the Big 12. But let's overview the Big 12. I'll say it myself in just a quick little cliff notes. Iowa State hammered Arizona, made them like it. Arizona State, watch out. They've won 2 games, tight games, and at home, they controlled TCU after falling behind. Cincinnati came back with what a game between Sorsby and Jalen Daniels to beat KU. BYU rolled. Baylor scored a lot, and that's how they're going to have to win. K-State found a way, and then Utah hammered West Virginia, and Houston with a huge comeback win on Friday night.
Yeah, I would say the only thing I would disagree with is BYU didn't roll. It was 24-21. They had to hold on, got down 14-0 early, came back.
Sorry. They were 14-0. I'm like, you're right. Then I checked back on that game.
They did not roll. Yeah. They almost looked like they were going to get rolled, and then Colorado's just not a very good football team. They're not a very good football team. But that's not to take away from BYU at all. To go out on the road to get down 14-0, that was a really good win for the Cougars. So I want to make sure that's clear. Good win for them. Bachmeier doing a terrific job of not turning the ball over. We'll get more in depth. But I thought that was a game that looked like it was a trap, and they survived that test. And so I think that's a great sign for BYU. Arizona State just seems to be the cardiac team of the league this year. I mean, 2 weeks in a row where you probably should be walking away with the loss, and they managed to grab a win there. And TCU's just way too one-dimensional, but had that game and that opportunity ripe there for the taking, and credit to ASU for closing that out. Cincinnati, awesome win, as you said, against Kansas.
What a game.
Was impressive.
Oh,
that was super impressive. Sorsby was awesome. Daniels was really good too, but Cincinnati, like going back to our conversation with Scott Satterfield, he felt like this was going to be a pretty good team, and these were the types of games that you'd need to win, upset here and there to really put yourself in a position to make that statement true. And so to go and steal one at Kansas, I thought was a really great win for the Bearcats. Baylor walked right into what we thought they were going to walk into, a hornet's nest and just a weird situation. And they played into it early on, but eventually I just think talent won out and the better team won. Utah handled their business. West Virginia's got a lot of work to do. And, Iowa State has been on top of my list of best teams in the league up until last week when Texas Tech supplanted them. They're now number 2. But I feel great about having Iowa State near the top of my Big 12 rankings every week because they're just steady eddies. It's not always pretty, but Becht is great, and they get the job done.
You know who's this year's Scatterboo? Hansen. The guy from Iowa State.
Hansen,
that's but he's gonna break tackles. He's gonna run through you. If you knock him down, you're gonna have to get a clean shot on him. It may not be enough.
And I know we're kind of machine gunning through this because we will get into it later, but that was a hell of a win for Houston on Friday night that probably mostly nobody watching this saw. I don't know. Maybe you are the sickos, so maybe you did see that late at night on Friday night, but that looked like a disaster out in Corvallis. And it wouldn't have been surprising because it's a Friday night in Corvallis. Like that's got trap written all over it. And it looked like that was going to be the case for Houston. And they were going to go from unbeaten to a really ugly loss. And they pulled that out in overtime. So I thought that was a great win for Willie Fritz and company because there was not a lot of sign of life on Friday night for a good long while until there absolutely had to be, and then they were able to kick it into gear.
Okay, here's my rapid fire thoughts.
Okay.
If you're going to beat Arizona State, you definitely need to show up in the fourth quarter because they wake up then.
Yeah.
And Mississippi State did just enough to make sure that happened, and they're the only one so far, but they're going to play games like that all year. Houston, fell in a horseshoe in the fourth quarter, and they woke up, so good for them. Baylor's defense is abysmal. I don't think they have a lot of talent. I don't think it's going to get better. They're going to have to score 38-plus points to win most every week. I see and it's surprising given the fact that the head coach is one of the best defensive minds in all college football.
That's not a good look for a guy who's a defensive-minded coach to not be able to get the defense to play pretty well. Yeah.
But I will not worry one iota about their offense all year long. They can score points. They've got a fantastic quarterback. If they can avoid mistakes, they'll be fine in most games, but they're going to have to play old-fashioned shootouts most of the time. Iowa State is like a team full of tanks. They just roll and roll and roll. And sometimes the road's rocky, but they're still a tank, and that's what happens. BYU has the best culture in the whole country, and I think that it pays off because they had no business being as calm as they did after being down 14-3 to a bad team in the first quarter, and then just went out the rest of the game and pretended it was 0-0 and won the game. Lance Leipold needs to get his defense to be able to close games, and they didn't. It was a fantastic game, though, and that was a true Big 12 wonder, and people need to start putting some respect on Brendan Sorsby's name nationally because he is one heck of a player. Kansas State needed to beat a team that they are better than, and UCF, they did it, and good for them. Avery Johnson's still not running. I don't understand. It's a combination of a lot of things, and West Virginia, Utah drubbed them, and everybody expected that. So it's not shocking, but I just wonder how rough it's going to be for them down the stretch when, even though they've got some athletic guys that can play quarterback, none of those three guys is a true Rich Rod quarterback, and I just think that it's going to be rocky.
He's going to have to get his guy. Those are just some cliff notes on the Big 12. We'll get more into it at around 4:25 after our guest, Bill Bender, will join us, who's a president of the Football Writers Association of America, also works and covers college football for the Sporting News. So there we are with that. And Oklahoma State, they fired their defensive coordinator. Todd Grantham is out. Clint Bowen, who had been the quality control position in the position of quality control, takes over as DC. Grantham signed a 3-year, $4.2 million deal in December. He's going to get paid all of that because he was fired 4 games into his tenure. He's part of the shrapnel, just a matter of when, with Mike Gundy no longer being the head coach of the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, they gave up over 600 yards of offense, and there was a lot of bad, signs of that defense not being coached the way that it needed to be, and just not being as good of a unit as it needs to be moving forward, even though they're in the midst of a change right now. So I don't think they're going to be the last team to give up a bunch of yards to Baylor. Pretty much everybody this season has, and a bunch of points as well. But I do think that this is just kind of getting rid of the remnants of Gundy in some ways and clearing house and just setting the stage for going out like he did on Saturday and just playing with carefree and just playing open and and fun, and then you'll worry about the coaching and all of that the rest of the way over these coming weeks. But I think Oklahoma State, just kind of cleaning out the rest of the cupboard and making a change that if you're going to make a change post Mike Gundy makes a lot of sense because that defense is not very good.
No, it wasn't. And Sawyer Robertson. We'll have some of the Big 12 honors from last weekend. We'll do that when we do the overview, more of an in-depth look at 425. Sam Pittman out at Arkansas. Just got smoked by Notre Dame. It got ugly. I even saw somebody say, does Marcus Freeman have something against Sam Pittman? I don't think anyone has something personal against Sam Pittman. He was fired. They were embarrassed at home in front of boosters, donors, fans, etc., alums, and his team, and he's now out after 6 years.
Look, kids, don't give up on your dreams. You too can have a motorcycle accident and have the most embarrassing press conference in college football coaching history and then wind up with that same job 15 years later.
Yeah, when he was hired, it was almost to me as if that was just a matter of time.
Well, and
the second time.
I would say that, look, he's going to try to weasel his way back into being their head coach. That would be a tremendously terrible decision on Arkansas's part. You've got a chance to reset the deck here. There are a lot of really good young candidates out there that would love the job, or some you might have to, really, really make a big push for. And I think one of them is Rhett Lashley, who you'll see I talk about this in the top 5 today, but just a little tease.
He's got a degree on the wall.
He's got a degree on the wall, and he also lives in the same exact neighborhood as a very powerful booster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, old Jerry, I'm sure, is going to have a say in who the next Arkansas head coach is. I think everybody kind of shared the same sentiment, best I could tell, of not surprised Sam Pittman's out, maybe a little bit surprised by the timing, although based on the way they looked this past weekend, not shocked by the timing.
And his buyout, if he ever fell under 500, it dropped from 75% down to 62%, and he did drop under 500.
Yeah, so, you have that factored in as well, and just the way that they didn't look great this past weekend, and I saw quite a few comments of just people opining that the team looked like the effort wasn't there. And that's one of those warning signs that you're like, okay, well, if they're not even playing hard, then this thing might as well make a change now, kind of a deal. But I'm sure the money was the driving force because it always is in everything that ever occurs. But again, not a surprise that he's out. I just feel like most expected him to at least make it to the end of the season. But I understand now with all these other jobs opening up, you want to get started and let it be known that you're open and not wait another 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks, even though the writing's on the wall. So they'll throw their hat in the ring, or have now thrown their hat into the ring with Virginia Tech and Oklahoma State and UCLA. And I think they are going to be a highly coveted job that, yes, could very well stay in-house and just try to do the West Virginia UCF thing of let's go back to the glory days of Bobby Petrino, even though that ended in as much disaster as it possibly could have. I get that. I would not want that, though, as an Arkansas fan. I've waited this long I want a new head coach, a new era, but I'm not a Woo Pig Suey guy, so I don't have the fondness in my heart for that success that Petrino gave you years ago. So, yeah, he's a guy that could very well be the choice. I don't know how inspired that would be, really. But if you're not going to go that direction, then obviously Rhett Lashley, obviously Jeff Traylor, obviously you kick the tires on Alex Golish and just see if he would be, all the same names that everybody else is going to try and talk to, but especially a Traylor and a Lashley, because those guys have been there and have some history there and are regionally connected as well. So I think that'll be a really fun job to track, unless it just becomes, the kind of boring in-house hire ultimately. But we'll see how these next few weeks play out.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for him, but it seemed like a really good dude. And one time after a big win, they asked him what he's going to do, and I'm going to go home, sit on my back porch and drink myself a cold one. He unfortunately will have time to do that. He's out at Arkansas. They also fired, Bobby Petrino fired the defensive staff, including 3 coaches and the coordinator, Travis Williams, who just 2 years ago and last year, the last 2 years, was named a nominee for the Broyles Award for the best assistant coach in college football.
Yeah, I got rid of DC Travis Williams, D-line coach Deke Adams, defensive assistant Marcus Woodson, all a part of the clearing of the defensive staff by Bobby Petrino. So he's the head coach now. He can make those moves, and We'll see if he's not done yet, but not wasting any time and getting to it. And I'm sure in his mind, not only setting himself up for the rest of this year, but potentially beyond. So until they hire somebody that's not named Bobby Petrino, I think you wonder, like, yeah, is he just going to be the guy there? It would make some sense. Again, I don't know how inspired of a choice it is, but there is precedent for it, so it wouldn't be all that surprising.
Yeah, I'm sure he's just going to be sitting in his office when the big money people come in and be like, "I'm just enjoying my favorite lunch, Tyson chicken nuggets, Tyson chicken nuggets, the food of champions." All the he's going to do everything he can to keep the job, and good, more power to him. It's just the worst decision that they could make, given the guys that they could get to coach there who are at the cutting edge of the profession.
You have to remember, though, that for Arkansas fans, Petrino's that's the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
That's the best that they've seen.
Yeah, since Frank Broyles and all that. Yeah.
So for most Arkansas fans that are around right now.
The ones who are younger, yeah.
Like all they know when they think of Arkansas success is Bobby Petrino, and just how and like what could have been, right? Like many other coaching scandals of like, what if he wouldn't have left? Where would Arkansas be right now? And so you wonder, well, what can he do now with NIL and all of that? So there's definitely a temptation there, but I'm with you, Paul. Like, I'm not an Arkansas fan though, so I don't have that fondness. If it was me, just neutral guy, I'd say, yeah, go get Lashley or Traylor, and let's have a younger coach who's fresh and new and all of that. But they don't have to make a choice right now. That's the good news for them.
By the way, Clarence Banks in the chat room, Paul, I know what you meant and understand about Avery Johnson. He did finish with 12 carries, 75 yards. But I do know this. I think it was Shahan Jararaja or David Ubben, one of the two, that said that there was a play in which Avery Johnson had every right to just take off. Here it is. One of the most athletic players in the sport. Thank you, Brandon. Rolled out in the pocket, saw no receivers, didn't even try to run, half-heartedly tossed the ball nowhere, took the turnover on downs, legitimately baffling. And then they ended up closing well. And so there we are on a note involving Avery Johnson.
And 12 carries for 75 is the best he's done this year, and that's a positive sign. But, it just looks like he's got a governor on him or something. Like, look, take it off. He doesn't need to be street legal. Let him go.
Remember that was a topic about 2 or 3 weeks ago when they lost Army? And Chris Kleiman had to address it, that he wants to keep him fresh. But you know what? You got to win games, so maybe they will now that they're into the heart of what they're doing in the conference.
Okay, he is a hot rod, and they're treating him like a minivan right now. And I think he needs to, go be a hot rod.
Soccer mom?
Yeah.
I also don't know how they are treating him or if he's telling them or whatever. Yeah. And so that's when every time this conversation starts going a certain direction, I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But
they is probably a collective thing of whatever's going on, whether it's Avery, them, some combination, just hit the gas.
It's the first time he's had more than 10 carries.
Yeah, I mean, that was a promising sign. And the thing is he's going to have to do that or they're not going to win a lot of games. Now, I think it was a much bigger factor having Dylan Edwards back in the lineup was a much more key addition to kind of what you expected in the beginning versus what you'd seen up until this point. Certainly Avery running more was always what you thought you'd see. And up until this past weekend, we hadn't really seen a lot of it. But I think far more importantly was you had Dylan Edwards. That opened a lot of things up for you. He had a great return. So if you got him back in the mix, I think that alone really freshens things up and gives K-State a new dynamic that they were expecting to have this entire time. And it really changes the game for them. But yeah, so too does Avery Johnson being a little bit more aggressive. That was promising. We're not even at the halfway point. Let's see if that continues on. But yeah, it does lead to this conversation like Sawyer Robertson this past week. He ran a little bit more because some of the same complaints of why is he not running? And I think in his case, it's because I need to stay healthy. But there's also that fan side of, but we're only going to win games if you do the thing that you have to risk.
We want you to be good and productive while you're in college.
You're at Baylor or at Kansas State, not at Tampa Bay or at Pittsburgh. We're here to root for you here. We're not worried about how good you are in 3 years in the NFL. And so that's where there's this crossroads between the fans and this whatever's going on with some players. It feels like of trying to protect themselves. And yeah, it's a weird spot because you understand it, but you're also thinking but we need you now.
Yeah.
Like, we need you at your best now. So that was good to see Avery open it up a little bit. I think that was a promising win for K-State. At minimum, it's something they can take a little bit of positivity from, which they have not had a lot to go off of this year. That was a much-needed win to kind of quench the thirst, and they can build off that.
Yeah, and his attempts per carry or his attempts per game, he had 6 games last year with 10-plus carries. He's had 1. Had more yards and 12 carries than he had the first 4 games or so, 25 carries for 62 yards. So his most he's ever had it was 17 carries in a game in his career. But, when he can take off, he's just not breaking that long one because people are looking for him. That's what they know that he can do. Now, where are we now after the weekend? There are some games we have not yet discussed, and we will. But here is the latest AP Top 25 poll. Ohio State, Oregon, the U, Ole Miss jumps 9 spots to number 4. Oklahoma moved up, didn't play. That's interesting because of the question at quarterback. And then you have the A&M win at home against Auburn. Penn State drops 4. Indiana continue to look good, and they've got themselves a showdown coming up. UT. And then Alabama moves up 7 spots. Look who is just outside the top 10. Kim Coulter sent me a text. He is like frothing at the mouth. He was almost hyperventilating ahead of Georgia, a logo, LSU, Tennessee, and many others. He is like, is this real life?
It is, and it's because they're really good, and they've done the work to get it right. I'm not going to let my personal biases upset me about this poll. It doesn't mean anything.
You mean why Florida State dropped 10?
Yeah, look, Virginia came into the poll. They deserve to be in the poll. They're good. I mean, I get that not everybody watches the games, but Alabama's 8 spots ahead of them, and look, they beat Georgia, but Florida State
none of this
rubbed them.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there was just a little bit closeness.
Some of it doesn't
there,
make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to let it bother me. If they beat Miami this week, then it's fine.
If they don't beat Miami, they'll be out. Right? Like they'll just knock them out like they did Arizona State earlier this year and a couple of others.
Even though Miami's number 3.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you.
I know.
They're not. They're a logo. They're a blue, almost blue blood. It depends on who you ask. But, yeah, they'll knock them out as fast as they possibly can.
Who's almost a blue blood?
Florida State. I consider them one.
I think they are.
Some people,
I don't know how many more titles they have to win today.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a debate on that. But I guess if you're trying to do like the ultra exclusive blue blood club, then yeah, maybe Florida State's not in that.
From the blue bloods perspective, I think if anyone has watched the last 25 or 30 years, they're in it. That's a different part we're talking about.
Yeah, we can talk about that in like July when there's nothing else going on, the blue blood conversation. But I think Oregon justly rewarded for winning the massive game that they did. Miami, I mean, not a big deal that they slip a spot. Ole Miss, I do feel like there is a difference when some teams win big games and when other teams win big games. You see this vaulting of multiple positions, and it's like Iowa State. It's like, oh, here you go. Here's number 25. So if you lose next week, you're right back out.
Yeah, Iowa State did not move up or down.
Yeah, I don't agree with.
They just are treading water, according to the voters.
Yeah, I mean, they can't say that it's some Big 12 bias, though, if Texas Tech's steadily, if not slowly, increasing.
But they're a story because of the offseason, so people might be giving them a little bit more oomph.
Well, I think.
And they've looked good.
I think too much oomph is given to the AP poll to begin with. I don't want to get into the same conversation for the last couple of weeks because everybody's done that at this point, but – I think that, obviously Oregon is deserving, like I said. Oklahoma, I do feel like they're getting a little bit overrated right now. I don't know that they're the number 5 team in the country, especially in light of the Mateer injury. So I'm not totally on board with that, but I know what the resume says, so I'll roll with it. Penn State got dinged a little, but not too much, and I think that's right. You lost in overtime to the number 2 team in the country, so that looks great. How about Indiana, though? I mean, survived a scare this weekend. Here they are in the top 10. And respect to Kurt Signetti, dude. He talks the talk a lot, but he's also walked the walk. And that was a massive win a couple weekends ago. I just hate we can get into like very specific things here. I mean, Notre Dame's already moving back up again. and never fell out, which I understood at least the reasoning why. But I hate that the number 22 through like 25 spots basically become this little offload, onload dock of like, what two Big 12 teams are still somewhat whatever? Okay, cool. They're 24 and 25 or 23 and 25. And then, next week Arizona State gets beaten, and then they'll get replaced. It's just, I just feel like there's a carousel that just stops at like the number 20. And that
it's like the group of 5 team look.
Unless you're Texas Tech and Iowa State that just got off to such a great start, like you have to scratch and claw. And I get some of it too is like, who is BYU beaten? That's great compared to going on the road and beating Penn State. So I understand that too, but it does feel like they're almost being given the G5 spots of you'll get a couple at the very end of this poll, but not much more than that. And so it'll be imperative for Tech and for Iowa State to just keep on winning and to kind of force the hand of the voters and force them to be recognized, I think is what you have to do.
No, and that's right.
Because they're not going to recognize you without you forcing them to recognize you.
Here's a couple of notes. It's almost as if, listen, Alabama looked really good. It's like a different team. It's almost as if the loss to Florida State disappeared. That doesn't mean it wasn't a great win. It absolutely was. Iowa State beat Arizona, who was not bad. They weren't ranked. They weren't like highly thought of, but they still beat them, and they beat them badly, and they don't move a notch. Sometimes it's what teams do in front of you if they drop, but how far, or behind you who had big wins, but they just don't get enough respect. Why does A&M move up 3 after beating a 2-loss Auburn? And I'm not trying to say they're not pretty good. They're pretty good, but they move up 3 to now what is a 2-loss Auburn. And I know Auburn's lost 2 hard games, Oklahoma and on the road. And
that's because they had Penn State losing, so that was one of the spots.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory.
Would you have a problem if Penn State?
Ninth, so
would you have a problem if Penn State was 6th and A&M was 7th?
Yes.
Or you would?
Yeah.
Okay.
A&M's beating Notre Dame and Auburn. I mean, like back to back. Like give them some credit for that. Auburn's not terrible. I mean,
Yeah, I think they deserve credit. I think we're also Auburn's being used as like this highly leveraged
like a
team
big gold
right now.
chip at a casino.
Like it's like oh, but the Auburn win too, and it's like, okay, what's Auburn's record now at this point? So I don't want to like overestimate the Auburn win for everybody. But yeah, it's definitely a much better mark than having beaten Ferris State or somebody like that. So I think resume wise, you got wins over an SEC team like Auburn, who looks like they're pretty okay, and a really good team in Notre Dame. Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine being where they are above a Penn State who, needed to rally in the fourth quarter at home and still lost when all was said and done. But I'm impressed by Indiana. I wasn't a big believer, but I mean, and it looked like they were going to slip this weekend, like I said a moment ago. But I'm very curious to see where that journey goes again, because we know where it ended up last year in the college football playoffs. So that's a fun story once again. And I think that BYU's got a really good shot, as does Arizona State, to keep climbing. There's a bunch of big games ahead in that league, but we also know that if you lose once, then you're right back out of that thing. and then if you win a bunch in a row, then you're right back in it to 25 or 24.
Yep.
It's just tough sledding to gain much ground in this poll for some teams.
Indiana winning at Iowa. I don't care sometimes how people think of how they play. That's a hard place to win. And how about the guy taking a safety, running 20, 30 yards backwards into the end zone, and the spread changed. The spread was they then ended up covering the spread. Let's see here. 3 teams have 2 wins against opponents ranked in the top 25 at the time they played. South Florida, USF, Miami, and Oklahoma. 4 teams have at least 3 wins against FBS opponents that currently have a winning record. Indiana, 4. Michigan, Ohio State, and Arizona State, number 25.
Okay, interesting.
Let's see. SEC is a nation-leading 12 non-conference wins in the FBS. I know we do it. We're not going to probably do it conference. We're going to do that.
I'm not going to do that this week. There's not enough games to do it. Everybody's basically playing conference at this point. There's the rare exception like Houston, Oregon State or something like that. But yeah, I mean, crossovers are pretty much done until we start getting some of the end of the year stuff with the rivalries.
And we kind of touched on this last week. The SEC and the Big 12 have a nation-leading 10 non-conference wins against the A4 opponents, which is the Autonomy 4. That's from Cody Kellner who breaks down a lot of the analytics. Here now, based on the poll, then Bill Bender from the Sporting News will join us. Here are the bangers. It almost was a banger, singular. Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia, how about where they are, against Alabama, who they beat last year to kind of wake everybody up about who they were. Paul mentioned Miami at Florida State and Tallahassee. Vanderbilt and Alabama, what just an opportunity for Vanderbilt, what they do, and Alabama trying to, again, with another ranked win if they do win.
Yeah, should be a really good one. I mean, this is a big one for Vanderbilt to go on the road and do this and keep it going. And Miami and Florida State, this is the best matchup between these two in 20 years. I mean, by far, in 20 years. So this is the best both teams have been at the same time in 20 years.
Well, we know Diego Pavia is a certain type of kryptonite for Alabama and that staff. So I'm just assuming that he's not going to be much of a surprise this year. If you were surprised by last year's result, there would be no surprise this year when it comes to Diego Pavia and Alabama. Ought to be a lot of fun. And the fact that we just kind of gloss over Vandy being basically borderline, and I say basically because they're not quite top 15, but borderline top 15, and just go over that like it's just normal, I think speaks like so well of Clark Lee and what they've built over the last year, in large part because of Diego Pavia. To see him get one more crack, if not the last crack, at Alabama, that's must-see TV there. And I hadn't really thought about Miami, Florida State in the bigger context, but I mean, to what Paul said, yeah, this is the biggest game in a really long time between these two teams because they've been on different trajectories at different points. So a big Miami, Florida State game where it matters not just for the Sunshine State or for those fans, but for the entire country. That's what I grew up watching, and I welcome that anytime we can get it. So, yeah, only two kind of sucks, but that just means there'll be a bunch of really good games we're not anticipating because they don't have shiny rankings next to them will end up being incredible. I know this next week's got big shoes to fill because this was a badass weekend of college football.
No,
week 5 was freaking awesome, and I don't know that we can recreate that every single week necessarily, but man, I'm looking forward to seeing them try. And there's some really good games in the Big 12 as well that are of interest games as far as the conference race goes. So I know we'll dive further into that, but yeah, Vandy, Bama, and Miami, Florida State, those are going to be fun.
Craig won the North Star Funding Pick'em contest. He was 7-3. He gets the $100 gift card. Craig, hold it up. There's the envelope. You get a picture of that. He won it. And by the way, it's like 5 or 6 tied at 6-4. He was 7-3. Still not enough games for us to really look at the winning percentage, because some are like went 8-2 or 7-3 after a week or two, then their percentage. We'll wait another week or two and we'll get into that once we get to about maybe 50 games or so. All right, when we come back, Bill Bender, the president of the Football Writers Association of America, Sporting News, by the way. He also covered Oregon and Penn State and more. He's next, and this is 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and maybe that is you, or maybe you're on the right side of that, and you're not. But if you are lethargic and your energy has dropped, especially in recent months or even a year or so, and you're into the mid to upper 30s, your sex drive should not be dropping, but if it has, and your performance at the same time is not the same, that could be your testosterone has dropped, and Dr. Kent Petty can help you out at PettyClinicLowT.com. Contact them. They'll set you up to get your blood work. They'll take care of it, get the results, be in contact with you so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be. Dr. Kent Petty at PettyClinicLowT.com.
My go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a defob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
It's back 0% for 72 months on all 2025 Ram 1500 trucks during the Drive into Fall event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Check out a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab with a massive $16,000 off, or a 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $12,000 off, and both at 3.9 for 72 months. And if you drive a Ford, Toyota, or GM, get an extra $1,500 bonus cash. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
At BK4, we step onto the field every day for our customers. Here, legends are born and glory is earned. The spirit of competition unites us all as we stand as one. It's more than a truck, it's a passion. Get ready for the thrill, the triumphs, and the unforgettable moments that only BK Ford can deliver. Are you ready to experience better? BK Ford.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
You have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Bill Bender, senior writer for Sporting News, also the Football Writers Association of America president this year. An Ohio U grad joins us on 365 Sports. Craig and Paul, David Smoak. And thank you, Bill, for your time. You were at the Oregon and Penn State game. Unbelievable atmosphere. Oregon finds a way again. Golly, the stats with James Franklin. It's hard to beat highly ranked teams, but the frustration level continues, I guess.
Yeah, and you could feel that in the stadium, from the fans, and on a early third quarter punt in Oregon territory. And when they were down 17-3, I give them credit. They battled back. They made it a double overtime thriller. I really, David, really thought they were going to win this one. I really did. And James Franklin and Drew Aller both owned that afterward. It's a really tough spot to be in because they are a solid program. Obviously, they went to the semifinals last year, but these top 10 losses just continue to wear on the program. And it is strange and unusual. You would have thought they would have broke through and won a couple of these.
Bill, look, James Franklin has done a fantastic job there. Most every other school in the country would be thrilled to have a guy with his record. What is he doing wrong that he cannot get past this hump to beat these teams and win a title? Because they're right there. Just to use another football analogy, they're at the 5-yard line all the time, but cannot get in. Well,
I think the stat can be misleading in a couple areas because they have lost a lot of these games to Ohio State, and Ohio State had the better team. I've got to go back and look. I would like to know how many games they were underdogs in, right? Like you could use that as not a cop-out, but an explanation, because quite honestly, I can't pinpoint anything he did wrong Saturday. Oregon's a really good football team. The environment was unbelievable. Whiteouts are, in my opinion, like the best spectacle in college football. And I know some other places could be in that discussion, but the fact that they just can't beat these top 10 teams, 2-6 in whiteouts against top 10 teams, haven't beat a top 10 team since 2016. And that's what wears on you as a program. He's done a lot of good, but at some point, like he said, you have to win these games.
So, Bill, Dante Moore, how about that young man, huh? Wow. Huge performance from him in a battle of very interesting and very good quarterbacks. And you kind of touched on being impressed by Oregon, but your thoughts on the Ducks and Dante Moore leading the way for them as they move forward and what this win meant for Dan Lanning and company.
Well, I think the scary part is he's nowhere near a finished product. To go into Happy Valley and maintain composure, he took a shot on a 4th down early in the game where they didn't get that first down, and a lot of quarterbacks would get flustered by that environment. But so for Dante Moore, especially in the overtime, back-to-back touchdown drives, ran when he needed to, made the big plays when he needed to, and to me, he's right there in the mix with the Heisman Trophy in a wide open race if he continues to win in the Big Ten. It's another reminder that it's okay to sit and wait sometimes, and he's done that with the Ducks.
So where we saw Alabama, Georgia, there was the Ole Miss game with LSU, and there were others. What other game? You were there. You covered that one, obviously. But what was perhaps the other note or two that you came out of the weekend?
Well, one, Alabama, obviously, and a gotta-have-it game, breaking a 33-game winning streak for Georgia. And when we talk about them having a loss, I had to catch myself. They haven't lost an SEC play yet. That's important. The Florida State game was a non-conference game that's really forgivable if they go on a run in SEC play. And then you have to be impressed with Lane Kiffin, what's going on at Ole Miss, the way that they beat LSU. I thought LSU was going to win that game. Maybe don't follow my picks all the time. But what a really good Ole Miss football team. Trinidad Chambliss has gone from a Division II transfer from Ferris State to another Heisman contender, coming off 3 300-yard games the last 3 weeks. He's been incredible.
Bill, the trajectory of Clemson has dripped slowly over the last couple of years, and I think maybe we noticed why on Friday night. Tony Elliott finally has a group of players that can kind of run that system, and they haven't been the same since he left there on offense. And they had the big win on Friday night against FSU. I don't know what their staying power is with that defense, but they seem to have it finally going the way that Tony Elliott wants it to go.
Yeah, and most impressed with how they pushed Florida State around in the second half. I think there was a 12 or 13 play drive. I was sitting on the couch watching it like everybody else, and I'm like, man, they're kind of bullying Florida State a little bit. We haven't seen that in a while. And it's funny, I was talking to my son earlier in the day about the legendary upset with Tiki and Rondé back in 95, and they were able to duplicate that. It was an amazing environment. I thought the students might have got on the field a little too soon, but they got to be careful there. What's going to happen when we have one of those situations, which we had in BYU Arizona State last year, where they had to clear the field? What's going to happen when they penalize a student for getting on the field too soon? It's only a matter of time.
So, yeah, Bill, you're absolutely right. I mean, it almost feels like one of those things like we're going to have to let tragedy happen and then go, oh, man, we should have done something about that. And I just hope we avoid that kind of a scenario. We were looking at the top 25 a few seconds ago, and before you joined us, and just a couple of teams that are there and stick out, but shouldn't be surprising at this point, are Vanderbilt and Indiana. Kind of the fun stories a year ago. We know Vandy's setting up for this big game with Alabama once again, but how much of a believer are you in these two teams? And just what do you think of the way they've really risen these past couple of seasons?
Well, I don't know. Here's what I'm trying to gauge with Diego Pavia this week. Is there a portion of college football that doesn't like him because of the JUCO transfer thing? And, he's outspoken. I would say some of the old guard may feel that way, but he is a fun story. He's playing fantastic football. He has a chance to do something that, the only time that a quarterback, and it was actually two quarterbacks, beat Alabama in back-to-back seasons in the Nick Saban era was Jarrett Lee and Jordan Jefferson at LSU. You have to go all the way back to Brandon Cox at Auburn to find a guy that beat Alabama 2 years in a row by himself, and he did it 3 years in a row. So what a tremendous opportunity for Diego Pavia. and Vanderbilt in this game. And I heard you guys talking a little bit about Florida State and Miami in the last segment. I can't believe I'm saying this to you three. You may hang up on me, but I think Alabama Vanderbilt, I'm more excited to watch that one.
I don't blame you at all for that. No, that's absolutely a valid opinion. Absolutely.
I mean, FSU grad over here might disagree.
Paul feels differently.
Blood in the game.
I'm terrified of every time that plays. But I'll tell you this, Alabama Vanderbilt probably will be a more fun game to watch stylistically, because I think Florida State and Miami, classically, the styles get thrown out the window because they just essentially figure out ways to fight through football plays.
Oh, they're going to hit each other too. Yeah. And the unfortunate thing about Florida State losing, I tell this story all the time, is I grew up in Central Ohio, and Florida State Miami growing up was a game that you called your buddies over. You got in the basement. We all watched it every year. And we didn't have like a favorite team. I mean, it was Ohio State and Michigan where we're from, but Florida State Miami was a must-watch game. And I was really hoping that it would be another top 10 showdown to bring back a lot. It will still bring back those memories. I think Doak's going to be rocking, and it's not going to be an easy game for Miami at all to go down there. But a little stunned, like I'm sure, I love your opinion, honestly, like what we watched with Florida State up front, especially on the defensive side, it wore out a little bit last Friday.
They did. And it's a perfect trap game scenario where you beat Alabama, you play a cupcake, a bye week, a cupcake again, and then you go to Virginia, who's better than you probably realized they were on a Friday night when everybody is just juiced up for you being there. And they're still in double overtime with a chance to win. So the arrow is still pointed up, but they got exposed a little bit on Friday night. And I wonder, because Virginia and Miami's styles are so different, how everybody kind of responds and adjusts to what happened. Because Chandler Morris, if he threw the ball more than 5 yards down the field, it got picked off. But if he just dinked and dunked, I mean, heck, it worked.
Yeah, they had a lot of under routes and a lot of he pulled the ball at the right time in the running game, made a lot of good decisions there. I'll tell you what, Deuce Robinson is amazing, though, on the other side. And I got to applaud the ACC for how they did that replay, because in real time, I thought he caught the touchdown. And now I know he bobbled it a couple times, and they literally broke it down by the millisecond. But I love that they brought us in the booth process. I mean, that way there's no conspiracy theories or those kind of things that we always joke about. I mean, I do it in the NFL every Sunday as a Packers fan. I said, I texted a buddy this morning and said, if the NFL does have script writers, last night was a beauty.
No question. You know, the Big 12 is going to start using the audio of the booth reviews from the headquarters, but they won't include video, which makes it even better. Bill, Texas Tech's 11, Iowa State at 14. You have BYU, and Arizona State reappears in the last three or whatever rankings in the top 25. Does Tech just need to keep winning? Are they getting more notice than perhaps Iowa State because of the offseason, because there's been a lot of publicity about them, for them to have a chance to move inside the top 10?
You know, I'm most impressed with their defense. I know with Texas Tech, the story is always the offense, but Rodriguez on defense, a difference maker at linebacker. They're really good up front. That's what stood out in that Utah game. And I know that's a cliche. You got to be a good up front, but they were active, and I didn't expect them to win that Utah game. So for them to go out there and do that, and even with Baron Morton going out of the game, was even more impressive when your backup quarterback comes in and makes plays that he made. So I think Texas Tech, Iowa State, BYU's worth watching. Arizona State's probably got the best quarterback of the bunch. I think Sam Leavitt, he's just fun to watch. You know, the way his mobility, the way he brought them back against TCU after a 17-0 hole in the first quarter. I thought the Horned Frogs were going to win that game. I was off last week. But, you know, I even had I was one of the victims of the Fernando Mendoza mad dash for a safety at the end of the game. That also impacted me a little bit. So I have questions.
What are you talking about, Bill? What are you talking about?
Unbelievable.
How much did that hurt their total yards rushing?
I know. That's what I was wondering. If I'm like, there are other ways to do that. And, you know, I'm just thinking in my head, what if he would have like stumbled and the ball just came out or something?
Yeah.
I mean, any of these things could have happened in that situation. But it was a fun weekend just the same. I mean, if you're worried about your picks against the spread, this isn't the season to worry about that. There's been so much craziness.
We when we look at each weekend, almost after any what I call or we call banger games or whatever, do we react too quickly and not enjoy the game itself and worry about what it means for the possibility of a college football playoff spot?
I think sometimes that's a fair point. And I do think I'll take the SEC, for example. It's become a little bit like the AFC because of all the wins and losses and, these great games. Like now we're kicking LSU out of the playoff and we're down on Georgia. But 2 weeks ago, we were trying to fire Kalen DeBoer. Vanderbilt and Missouri are undefeated. I think it's been that conference in particular embodies what you're talking about because there have been super swings. And I think there's a real possibility that the SEC champion will have 2 or 3 losses because they're just going to beat on each other over the next couple months. I mean, even a game like Texas, Florida this weekend, that's not a gimme for the Longhorns. They're going to have to go there and play well to win in the swamp against that defense, a top 25 defense. And but I think Texas, and I say this in one breath and then the other, I'll tell you, I think Texas and Alabama might be in the SEC championship game when we're all said and done. And I could see a Texas-Ohio State rematch down the line.
Bill, I'm going to make you €100 check. Who's your guy at Arkansas?
I think they're going to go after Red Lashley for sure. I mean, that's got to be one guy. I've read some tweets that, there's some reporting out there that Dan Mullen could be a guy. I didn't even think about that Saturday. He's a guy, but that's another one that makes sense. I look more at Dan Mullen for the track record at Mississippi State, where they were at number 1 in the country at one point. He did a very good job there, and he could do a very good job at Arkansas. So those are the two. And then, we're always going to try to link Gus Malzahn to that job, but they've had other chances to hire him. So I think Rhett Lashley and Dan Mullen are the 2 names to watch.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I saw a note about in Dallas because of the fertile ground of what they have with SMU's booster base. Is it even better no matter if it's alma mater, and also harder to win maybe at Arkansas in the SEC than he can pick off some playoff spots and appearances at SMU.
I agree with that. And I think SMU and all these Texas schools, one of the things we talked about this with NIL, who's all in the top 15 right now? Texas A&M, Texas Tech, SMU made the playoff last season. Baylor, I think, still a solid program that could be the next school to do those kind of things. So in this environment, these Texas schools, with the recruiting base on top of it, it might be a better job, but you just can never rule out that the tug from the alma mater. You know what I mean? We've seen that so many times where they're able to come back to school whether it works out or not.
Thank you, Bill. Good to have you on. We'll be back in touch. Thank you so much. Appreciate your perspective.
Hey, anytime, guys. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Bill Bender, Sporting News, Football Writers Association of America, president of that group, and we appreciate his time. He was also at the game between Oregon and Penn State.
Yeah, that was a scene, man. That looked so cool. That whiteout in Happy Valley, and can't imagine what it was like to be there for that one, but envious of that, and enjoyed talking to him. Maybe a new voice to have on occasion.
I got to tell you guys, we have amazing guests, and we've worked on that over the years. But I'm scratching for some new blood, and appreciate Bill responding to us and being a part of it. Thanks. He's part of that Super 16 poll too from the National Football Foundation. Yeah. He does all of it.
Never bad to just talk to some new folks, get some different opinions, or even the same opinions just from a different angle. So yeah, first time talking with him, but enjoyed what he had to say. And so I'm sure we'll be talking to him again more in the future, along with all the various other regulars as well. But yeah, what a win for Oregon. And just what a great weekend. Like that's a bad, if you go all the way back to Friday night with Houston having to fend off this loss in Corvallis and walking it off, and then also having what was the other game on Friday? Arizona State and TCU was a hell of a game. That was a lot of fun and a great way to start the weekend, and then it never stopped from then on. So really enjoyed the games we got, and all the big matchups seem to live up to their weeks worth of buildup in almost every single case that I can think of.
It was hard to pick games. Obviously not for Craig. It was for not quite as much for Paul, but it was for me as a 1-4 on our college football picks.
By the way, thank you to Kim Coulter.
Yes.
And I didn't show but I do have the Visa gift card here.
Brandon, there you go. There it is.
Thanks to Kim for providing me with the spoils of winning this week. So if you want to get a Visa gift card, then join up.
You have one? Here's the thing, though. It'll be great for Amanda because if I win, it's not going to be a me thing. I'm just going to go here. And this is courtesy of Kim Coulter. And she's like, I like that.
Yeah. That's good to know. When we come back, a deeper dive. Yeah, I'd love to be able to just buy $100 gift cards from North Star Funding Partners. When we come back, a deeper dive into the Big 12, a couple of nuggets, the players of the week. We'll get to that and more, and your feedback in the chat room. Love to have that. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco, and they are, they're hosting the tailgate coming up as Baylor will host Kansas State 11 o'clock on Saturday. They'll have a pep rally outside of the stadium from 5 until 8. Spirit Squad live music from Sammy Brown. And then Saturday, Knox Hall, the tailgate that the Baylor Club will put on from 8 to 11. And also a buffet, food, and all sorts of festivities and games at that tailgate for them too. Plus, during the week, go by there and have a great lunch or great dinner, brunch on the weekend, and fantastic food, the amenities, the renovation. Nick Colwell, the general manager, and so many others that put on a show for you, whether it's for a lunch, just simply you going to eat with somebody who's with you, a family, or even maybe somebody who's a business customer or client. And then luncheons and banquets and symposiums and others, they do that too. The Baylor Club, tell them 365 Sports sent you inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
Must be 18 and up, 19 and up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 and up, and in Colorado for some games, 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and must be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. Must be 18 and up, 19 and up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 and up, and in Colorado for some games, 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and must be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990 or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling. And wrap up your summer in style with the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm, welcome home.
pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Just one quick note about a game that was mentioned in the last segment, and also with Bill Bender, and then we will hit the Big 12 and head it hard. During the fan field, the storming of the field at UVA, I saw this tweet about somebody that was complaining because the buses were running like 2, 3, 4 hours. It was the bad cycle, right? And the either associate or the AD at Virginia tweeted back at the fan, "Sorry for the inconvenience, but we lost 2 children in that." Like, not lost them for good, but 2 children were lost in the maze of bodies. That might have been the greatest storm. Sorry, Paul. May have been the greatest storming of a field I've ever seen. Chris Budden, who of course works the broadcast, was saying, "I'm okay," but 2 children were lost from their parents during that storming.
It was less than responsible, but what are we expecting? When Florida State scored at the end of the game, and they were already coming down with like 3 minutes left down the berm there, I was like, oh man, FSU's going to come back and win, and all those kids are just going to like, oh yeah, we came all the way down here.
I almost was rooting for it at that point because I wanted to see this is just like the wave of disappointed fans on the verge of the field.
So that gave me a little bit of life. And look, Florida State couldn't close it out. They're better. I can't dwell on it. Got to move on.
It's just a bump in the road, Paul. They beat Miami, moved back into the top 10.
Just hope Chandler Morris doesn't have a 7th year of eligibility to go play somewhere else again. His 5th school. 3 interceptions for him in that game. 3 interceptions.
He ran for 3 scores too, right?
He had some, but he also had 3 interceptions in that game. But played well enough to put them over the hump. And good for him. Good for Virginia. That was a great win. Definitely a staff that needed something like that. And it was fun to watch. I was traveling out of town, but got to watch like the end of that game and have been listening to it. And we kind of made the comment in passing when you weren't here, but like Paul mentioned the couple games. It was like, Houston and Oregon State. And they're like, like Houston better win that game. But then, you put out there about FSU and Virginia, like, hey, Virginia's what were they 4-0?
No, they're
3-1.
3-1, yeah.
3-1, and they're at home, and it's a Friday night, and
I'm doing a Friday broadcast, and I saw blank Chandler Morris, and I didn't even realize what he meant by that.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been anything, but it was definitely about them putting it on the Noles there, and clearly, starting up an upset bid that they paid off. I hated the field storming though. Like that was one of those, like I said, just to Bill Bender a few seconds ago. It's going to take, and I hate to say this, but here's a headline from CBS: 19 people treated for injuries.
Oh yeah.
And it could have been so much worse. There could have been somebody trampled, and I'm not Mr. like, shut the party down. But, dude, it really is going to take somebody getting paralyzed or dying for somebody to go, you know what? We should stop field storming.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's going to take, because that was a mess.
Electrical fences.
Look, there was a Florida State player and a Virginia player on the ground.
No.
Well, because they just made the play.
Just made the play. So, like, they were on the ground, and I kept thinking, like, man, I hope they're okay. I mean, like, thank God they've got pads on, because they hadn't even gotten a chance to push themselves up yet.
No, they were on the ground. The ball had just bounced away from the receiver. Big 12. Phil Bennett, by the way, a little bit earlier than we have normally had him. Not at 5, but a little bit earlier once we finish this discussion on the Big 12 Conference. Who had the best win? Arizona State beating TCU?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's a top 25 win. It's a big win at home, and it's a huge win for Arizona State, who was a little bit behind the 8 ball because they already had the loss to Mississippi State, so they don't really have a whole lot of room for error. And so, yeah, I think that was a hell of a way for the weekend to get kick-started, and a big win for Kenny Dillingham 2 weeks in a row where you've got this loss that seems like it's inevitable, and you're able to go and make some plays there at the end. As far as the rest of the games go, I mean, Kansas State maybe had like the most important for confidence purposes, but the biggest win was, it was definitely Arizona State beating TCU.
Yeah, Arizona State, and they've won 2 teams that win the Big 12 usually win about 4 or 5 one-score games, and a lot of times dramatic, and they've been able to do that.
Yeah, look, we all picked TCU. I thought they were rolling along pretty well there. And look, their upcoming schedule, the next couple, they should be able to win those games, unless Kansas State, that game has kind of shot energy back into them and they can play how people thought that they would all year long. But TCU can get on a roll. That was they jumped out in that game and they were in control, and Arizona State just knows how to, they and BYU have that same kind of culture thing where it's fine. There's 4 quarters in this game, and they don't worry about it when they're down.
They don't get on the emotional roller coaster. Iowa State has a little bit of that in them, and we'll see if they fall behind or it's late and they're falling behind, how they react to it. I think everybody will have that moment or two in the season.
Yeah, so I was super impressed by just the resilience of Arizona State, being down 17-0, didn't flinch, scored a couple times there in that second quarter to close it in by halftime and make it a game and basically start from scratch in the second half. And Sam Leavitt outplayed Josh Hoover. I mean, Josh Hoover with a couple picks, including that one there at the end, obviously, that you like to have back. But no run game for TCU. It was already going to be tough for them to be able to run the football, missing – now his name escapes me, of all the times to escape me. Their running back, who could have named any time but now.
Barnes?
Kavorian Barnes. Not having him, we said last week, that was not like, oh, well, now they won't have a run game. It's like, well, they didn't really have a run game to begin with. Now they really don't have a run game. They end up with 10 yards rushing. Mm-hmm. 10 yards rushing for TCU in that football game. Hoover threw it around a bit, but again, no touchdowns for him. The 2 picks, not a very efficient game for him. And then TCU defensively, they gave up over 200 yards rushing. I mean, Arizona State lost Scattaboo, but bringing in Raleigh Brown and Sam Leavitt's ability to run around a little bit as well, I think that they've more than made up for, or not made up for, but I think they've more than comfortably at least filled the gap as best they could, losing a guy who's a generational type of player for them in Scattaboo. Like, they have a strong running game. It's not this giant fall off like some anticipated that it might be. And then Jordan Tyson and Sam Leavitt is the number 1 combination in the country. I know maybe you'd say some other combination maybe comes to mind for you, but if you don't say Sam Leavitt and Jordan Tyson, at least in like the top 2 or 3, then I don't think you know ball. because I think that they are that formidable, and it's every single week with those two guys. They're connecting and scoring and making big plays happen. And so no different here. Tyson with over 100 again, 2 touchdowns. Just great, resilient effort by Arizona State. Don't know if that happens if they're playing in Fort Worth. I do think that a little bit of that, like, oh, they're back in it, and it's, like a little bit of home field backing them as well to supercharge them a little bit more. Thought that it was a terrific win that puts them squarely in maybe not that very top tier, because maybe you don't feel like they're quite the level of Iowa State or Texas Tech, but they're right behind that if they're not in that same grouping. Like, I don't think there's any doubt they are at worst like in the number 2 spot as far as the levels go in the Big 12 race right now.
Yeah, you'll have your Mojo rankings Wednesday. I believe it is Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Who would be right now your top 3 in the Big 12? Craig and then Paul.
Well, I don't want to spoil it too much, but last week I had Texas Tech on top. That's not going to change. Iowa State was number 2. That's not going to change. And then I believe I had BYU at 3. And that might have been a little bit, for some people, a little bit presumptuous maybe, but I went back to, they have a very, very good defense. They have a very, very good special teams unit as well. Their offense can be a little bit bland and not really explosive, but Bear Bachmeier takes care of the football, and they're able to run effectively, and they've got some receivers that can make plays at very opportune times like they did against Colorado on many occasions. So BYU, my top 3, I think, might be unchanged this week. Texas Tech, Iowa State, BYU, and then Arizona State's going to be right there in that mix.
Paul, if you had a top tier, how many teams would be in it, and who would they be?
It would be I'm going to put BYU just at the top of the second tier right now.
Okay.
And that's mode. Like, I'm just doing upcoming Mojo. But my top 3 would be Tech, Iowa State, and Arizona State.
Okay.
Because I just think those are the 3 best teams. Now, the next 2 games for BYU are West Virginia and Arizona, games that they probably should and will win, but we'll see. But they also have now what is the toughest closing stretch in the league, not UCF at the end of the season notwithstanding, but Holy War, Iowa State, Texas Tech, TCU, and Cincinnati straight through.
Where's Cincinnati at? Where's that game?
It's at Cincinnati.
Okay.
So
all right.
It's in the chilly capital of the world, and that's going to be tough. I mean, that's a really tough stretch. Should they make it through there, barely scathed, then that's really something they've done. But they're building their momentum right now so that they can go and steal some of those.
Life support, Oklahoma State, Colorado, West Virginia, UCF probably could be a part of that. It's early, only 1 game for most of these teams. Iowa State, Arizona State have played 2 as Colorado and West Virginia. Driving back from East Texas yesterday, I was listening to all the coaches' press conferences, listening to Dion. He was so down. He really did not call out specific players. You could tell. He said, we played the way we practiced, and that's on how we practiced. And also we have to get, and he was down. They're struggling at 2-2. Played really well early. I was like, damn, this is going to be a nice win for Dion. And of course it was not.
So I guess just following up, we're kind of all over here, but BYU is obviously very good, very resilient effort by them being down 14-0. I thought Colorado really by the end of the game showed who they are. They're not a very good football team. They're just not a very good football team. Their defense leaves a ton to be desired. They're not great in the secondary, which you think, at least with Deion Sanders, that'd be where they'd recruit really well and they'd have guys. It feels like they have long, tall guys who look like they should be really good, but aren't actually that good. Like the prototypical size is there, long arms and all this jazz, but they don't really play that well. They have no run game to speak of. Caden Salter was an absolute disaster at quarterback on Friday night in the most key moments of that game when they still had an opportunity to go down, try and tie it, try and win it. And he throws just a god-awful pick to end the game, just very abruptly, quite frankly, when you thought that we were going to at least see some sparks at the end. And instead, he just throws it away and boom, game over with, just like that. It just felt like the rug got ripped out from underneath you. And I don't think Colorado's in a very good spot. I was having a conversation with my brother-in-law about Dion and just the future, and I don't know that he's there in a couple of years because I don't think that there's really a lot of signs they're going to be as good as they were a year ago. And how do you replace a Heisman Trophy winner? How do you replace your son / all-star, level type of quarterback? Easier said than done, but I just don't see a whole lot of reasons for optimism. Salter, even though he's maybe the best option, is not a good option. And I'm not a believer in them. Like I gave them the benefit of the doubt there for a while, and they put up a nice effort, but it was just very clear by the end that BYU is a much better football team, and Colorado did not take advantage of the couple key moments they needed to make a play. They just could not make a play to try and pull off the upset. So really, really nice job by BYU to remain unflustered and to get a win on the road. I just don't believe in Colorado having that much to really maximize this season.
I don't know where the talent is coming from if he doesn't rearrange the way he does it. I also think he probably needs to get some college coordinators in there as well and kind of run that. I mean, they've gone kind of as far as they can go doing the system they can. I think he'll figure some things out, but his health problems, there's a lot of questions around it that he's going to have to really kind of, wrestle with in this offseason, and we'll see where that ends up. But Craig, I agree with you. I don't see a straight line for them to just,
dude, what are you going to do?
Step by step building.
You going to change quarterbacks again?
Yeah.
What's that? You can't do that anymore.
No, you can't. It's like calling a team meeting. You can't do it twice.
Now, Salter's legs came into play a bit, and you saw that's fun, but the decision-making, the lack of passing talent, that was clear as day as well. They actually ran for a good number of yards, but could not pass the ball to save their life, and just really bad mistakes down the stretch. I mean, terrible tackling team, blown aside. Their defense, they are not good. And like I said, I gave them the benefit of the doubt as far as mojo goes, because Deion's teams are always going to have mojo. And I was watching them Saturday, and I was like, they don't even have any mojo. No. This is Deion leading the way, and that's why I got into the conversation about the big picture. But I think BYU was clearly the better team. There was no doubt about that.
Yeah, and then there's some that kind of kept themselves afloat, and of course they have to follow it up with wins, not just this week, but also in the future. Big 12 Players of the Week. Offensive Player of the Week was Sawyer Robertson, nearly 400 yards passing, leads the country in passing yards, touchdowns, all overall touchdowns. He's had a heck of a year, but in that game with Arizona State, the offense was struggling, and give Arizona State credit. Prince Dorba from Arizona State and Sione Fatu from Houston, Defensive Players of the Week. Jesus Gomez, think about what he's done back-to-back games with game-winning field goals at Arizona State, and Steven Rusnak, the kicker at Cincinnati. Bear Bachmeier, Freshman of the Week. He was strong in the second half, especially for BYU. Cincinnati, Offensive Line of the Week. Arizona State, Defensive Line of the Week.
Yeah, Bear Bachmeier just doesn't make mistakes. He's very good about limiting the mistakes, and just a solid quarterback who's young and is going to get better and better, and he's doing just what BYU needs him to do at this point. He's not going to have to go out and win them a lot of games. Their defense, special teams, and some of the playmakers around him will help ensure. He's just got to dole out the ball efficiently, and he was very efficient against Colorado, so I think there's a very bright future ahead for him. Prince Dorba had the play of the game, certainly in the Arizona State win, because he had the incredible strip sack fumble at Josh Hoover that just flipped everything on its head and helped Arizona State on their way to that win. It was an incredible one-man play, and he's a really good player. I mean, they got a really nice defense there. They're a good all-around team there in Tempe, but definitely winning by the skin of their teeth. Sorsby was great, and when he's great, then Cincinnati's really good and really formidable, and so he's been pretty hot here and showing off his best. And then Sawyer Robertson, after a week where it was a little bit down, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and they're one of the better offenses in the country. So I think for Baylor, it's just a matter of scoring as many points as you can every week, because you're not going to stop the other team from scoring that many. That's become very clear. You're going to have to win shootouts the rest of the way, and I think they're capable of doing that, but it's a dicey game to play every week.
Yeah, you're going to have some weeks where the weather could be different, where, maybe Sawyer, doesn't have his fastball, all those different kind of things. And just compare how much the Auburn offensive line leaned on them to what the Auburn offensive line has looked like the last 2 weeks. And there's a significant gap between the talent. And look, I know that it's Oklahoma and A&M and they have a lot of defensive line talent, but Jackson Arnold running for his life every time he passed the ball, didn't run the ball well really in either game the way he did against Baylor. It's a totally different thing when you see Auburn the last couple weeks is where they just ran at will at Baylor. You don't have to have a big, diverse plan, against Baylor in the run game. You just kind of have to go right at them, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, if they turn it over, Craig mentioned this earlier, Baylor cannot afford mistakes. Against anybody else the rest of the way, they just can't afford to turn it over or lose a turnover battle by a fumble interception or two. They're just not good enough to do that on defense. When we come back, we'll see what Phil Bennett has to say. Longtime college football coach. Do you want to put a bow on the Big 12, Craig?
No, we'll just get some other games later on. We didn't touch on all of them. I want to give K-State their love and obviously Utah some love as well for their big wins. We can get a little bit more in those as the week progresses. But, it was a entertaining week. Iowa State didn't give them much love, but they certainly deserve it as well. So, we'll just circle back at some point. But I think we hit some of the highlights.
And we could do some of that with Phil Bennett, who's back this week after the surgery on his neck, feeling a lot better. And we'll check in with him. He's next. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Ted Teague, General Manager and CEO. And they continue with this being September the 29th. 2 more days left in what they have with all of the great opportunities, incentives, and values when it comes to so much on their lot and inventory. For example, Jeep, the 2025 Ram 1500, 0% APR for 72 months, in stock and ready for you to drive off the lot. 0% for 6 years on the 2025 Ram 1500 trucks. Also, 13,500 off and 3.9% for 72 months on the brand new 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star, or lock in 0% APR for 72 months. The month-end blowout continues through tonight and tomorrow. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. General Manager and CEO is Ted Teague. The sales manager is David Gray. Take advantage of the $7,500 federal tax credit as well on new vehicles, but only through the next couple of days. Alan Samuels, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget, from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560, or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
He is back, and it's good to see you. Phil Bennett. Oh, my goodness. Well, we know you had the surgery. There's the neck brace. So how you doing, Coach?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic. We really are. It's good to see your face. We missed you last week.
Well,
and that it went well.
Trust me, I would have rather been with you guys than where I was, but it was necessary, and hopefully we got everything corrected and we'll move on.
So did you then, were you immobile enough where you just sat there and watched college football throughout the weekend?
You know, I never left the house. And, of course, you've seen my back porch. I've got 5 TVs. So I want to tell you something. I thought about this when I was watching the Kansas-Cincinnati game. I'm telling you, I think the Big 12 has the worst defenses I have ever seen. I mean, that game, the Kansas-Cincinnati, nobody stopped anybody. The only 2 teams that I watched in the Big 12 that played the lick of defense was Arizona State, and they were sort of a second half, and Iowa State. It's got me baffled.
Phil, I mean, these were, and a lot of these teams were good on defense a year ago. Iowa State plays, they'll muscle up and knock you in your teeth, that's for sure. And we'll see long term about Tech, but the way that look, Baylor is run by Dave Aranda, who's a defensive mind. I'll use them as an example. The way that they've kind of fallen back on that side is really baffling to me. What do you see is going on there? Are they have a talent issue or is it a scheme issue?
The first thing I'm going to tell you, you were talking about Auburn against Oklahoma, against A&M. They pressured them. I mean, they got after him. We didn't pressure, I think, one time, maybe once or twice. I mean, both teams they forced the issue. And that's what you have to do with that quarterback and that offensive line. I mean, A&M zero blitzed. I bet they blitzed the fourth quarter three quarters of the time. They pressured them. Baylor did not pressure. They're not he doesn't do run stunts. He doesn't help he doesn't change anything up. And I'm sort of, I told you this, I'm shocked that they're not more aggressive in trying to help, sometimes their size movement. I don't think they're not without talent. One of the things right now I didn't mention, but Texas Tech is playing pretty good defense and they're aggressive. I mean, they're aggressive. Arizona State's aggressive. Iowa State's aggressive. And if you're just going to sit there, you're going to have some problems in this league.
Coach, we did not get to talk to you last week. Baylor obviously up there playing in Stillwater, knew it would be a unique atmosphere because of what had happened just a few days before. What were your thoughts when you saw the dismissal of Mike Gundy and you played against him a lot? And what stood out to you about it?
The first thing that came to my mind, Craig, is the first game I think maybe his freshman year, I was the defensive coordinator. I believe it was 1985. And I was at Iowa State. We had a really good defense, a pretty good team. And I believe that would have been our 8th win. And they had fired our coach over a recruiting violation. And he and Hartley Dykes beat us on the last drive of the game. And it was his freshman year. And I've known Mike ever since. And, of course, I was good friends with Pat Jones. I think they should build a statue. He did a great job there. I know the ending wasn't well, but he was always competitive. He had a great staff. I was disappointed last year when the guys that had been with him, he spent time with him, got released because I thought that was a mistake. But I also understood. I know how it goes sometimes when you're fighting for your job. I think he's a really good guy. I think he did a great job for Oklahoma State, and I think the time just got him. He would probably tell you this. He didn't embrace the portal quick enough, nor the NIL. And that seems to be whoever's doing it's got a chance to get better.
You know, there's other coach. Obviously, Dabo gets thrown into that group, no matter his success at Clemson, that he kind of has been stubborn about that too with the portal and NIL, although he still has a talented team, but we've seen what's happened to them. You know, times change. You had to do different schemes, even what you liked or relied on, and the players you recruited. You always recruited sometimes outside the box, and guys became All-Americans. But you had to know what was changing within the game. How difficult can that be, or is that just part of your job?
Well, I think especially the evolution the last 2 or 3 years with what everybody talked about it, and Smokey, all of a sudden the next thing you know, it was here. I still remember that Baylor T-shirt. We pay our players. That used to be. You remember I coached at the only school that ever got the death penalty for doing it, and now people are applauding it. You're right. It's just different, and you better be flexible. I listened to the AD at Arkansas, and he talks about everything they didn't have. Well, that's his fault too. I mean, the ADs are a big part of that NIL and the structure. It takes a whole team, a whole athletic department to get it right. And I think there's got to be some major changes. I think you're going to see that starting with the portal, one time a year. And then I think the payment structure is got to be straightened out also.
Phil, I like that you said that about Hunter Yurchuk. He's actually one of the ADs that kind of got pulled kicking and screaming into this. It's his job to go get that money. They've got a lot of guys. Look, they went out and got Tyson Chicken's money, which I don't know if they did or the Tyson Chicken guy just did for John Calipari. Jerry Jones is probably willing to do it for a football coach too, isn't he?
I would think so. I've thought about that. I mean, let's all be honest. I grew up in Northeast Texas, and Arkansas has been, they've been dominant in a lot of areas for a long time. And you look at what Ole Miss is doing. You look at what Memphis is doing. And you sit there and say, why can't that be us? Why not?
Coach, pretty cool scene there in Happy Valley. The whole stigma surrounding James Franklin right now, can't win the big one, and looked like they were going to rally and do just that. And then Oregon puts the finishing touches on them there in double overtime. How impressed were you by Oregon's young quarterback, Dante Moore, and just what did you make of the ebbs and flows of that game there at up at Penn State's place?
Craig, the first thing I like Dan Lanning's approach. I've known Dan for a long time. He's a young coach with us. I just liked his approach. He works his ass off. His staff works. They're so prepared. And he doesn't let his players get intimidated by situations. Their quarterback, Dante, had not played great, but yet when the final stats were out, I think he was like 29 of 39, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. And, they outgained Penn State by 150 yards. So the game was probably closer than they wanted. I think and after the game, he said something that really stuck with me. I've always said this, it's a journey. It's a process. It's a journey. And they took a big step, Saturday there. And I don't know if you've ever played there or been there to a game, but I have a couple of times. That is one of the best atmospheres in college football.
Phil, your Aggies are finding different ways to win. They're playing confident. They've got to figure out how to change the knobs on Marcel Reed when he throws the ball deep. But overall, look, they ran the ball when they needed to against Auburn. Le'Veon Moss was really good, and the defense made plays when they had to. And if not for a crazy pick in the fourth quarter, Auburn doesn't score a touchdown in that game.
Correct. The thing that I liked about them, I'm going to say this again, is especially in the second half, Elko turned the heat up. They came after that quarterback, and they knew we can't give him time. They knew the receivers were dangerous. And I really thought that defensively, the pressure that they brought the second half won the game for them. And you know, York, their young linebacker from Temple, played big. Cassius Howe, the defensive end, was big. And I thought their secondary played really well. You know, and even though they didn't score, you know, didn't do a great job on offense, they got killed by so many offensive penalties. They had some big plays, and it was sort of like the Notre Dame game. They had all these crucial penalties, but yet found a way to win, which I think if you keep growing and you keep progressing, eventually that's going to turn.
So you're down there in the College Station area. Mike Elko said something that seemed kind of obvious a couple of weeks ago, or at least it's a message he's been stating of like, don't be scared by success and like waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, you know, quit being scared. How much, even though that seems like an obvious thing to say, but how much did the A&M fans kind of need to hear that?
Hey, they have to be told that. You know, they listen. They have the battered Aggie syndrome,
right?
And it's real. It's like the Trump derangement syndrome. It's real. And you know, I really liked what he said after the game. I usually don't watch post game, but I just happened to see it. You know, 4 of the first 5 questions that he was asked were something negative: penalties, interception for a touchdown, this. And finally, he just didn't say it in a smart, eloquent way. He goes, "Hey, can we talk about something we did good? You know, we're 4-0 for the first time since 2016." And I thought he really, and they're saying, okay, we can do that. And you know, everybody has a spin, but the thing that's real right now, hey, won at Notre Dame, beat a very good Auburn team, and they've progressed. They've gotten better. And this week, going to have a tough Mississippi State team. There won't be any gimmies. This league, the SEC, if I had to say the one team that looks probably better than most, it would be Alabama. But I'm not sure about that. I mean, there's a lot of even teams there. You know, I look at LSU. I was going to tell you this, Smoak. You know, they want to get on the offense at LSU. I'm telling you, Kiffin was laughing at the way LSU's defense tried to play him Saturday. I mean, he schemed them left and right. I mean, they didn't have a clue how to play. The 4th down play was a joke. You know, and I know they didn't play great on offense, but they played as bad on defense.
And that actually had been pretty much their strength, at least so far. LSU's deep. Well, they were outperforming what a lot of people may have thought entering the year.
Listen, he doesn't. This young coach is they're aggressive, but they don't play schemes well. And I'm telling you, Charlie, the coordinator, did a great job. I mean, he put them in some matchups. They're trying to play man coverage and bunch techniques, and he runs a short motion and runs a boot off of it. Guy's wide open. I mean, could have scored, you know, when it's 4th and 3. He just owned him. And you know, you can't just get in there and try to be brutal and be reckless. You've got to match some schemes. That's one of the things I'm surprised right now with Baylor. Baylor's not matching schemes either.
Yeah, they're going to have to. Sawyer Robertson's going to have to throw for 350 and more constantly. I heard Mike Elko, and I mentioned this earlier on his post game, saying that one game at Notre Dame, the offense picked up the defense. And this weekend against Auburn, the defense picked up the offense. He said, just imagine if we could try to somehow blend that together. How hard is it to play complementary football and be consistent at it?
I think we've all talked about this. You know, I said it when I was at Baylor. Winning is hard. It's hard. You know, I talked to Brian Ward, the defensive coordinator at Arizona State, after the game. The TCU game, actually Saturday. We're talking. He's a great coach, great guy. And he told me, he said, the thing that I feel so good about, he said, is we have won with 4 starters out on defense. He said, we're starting to get guys back. He said, we're practicing better. He said, we're going to have some competition. That's what happened to us in 2012 when we had all those injuries that we started middle to late season. We got everybody back, and hell, everybody said, I better practice hard if I want to play, and it makes a difference.
Phil, how much of a difference does the 12-team playoff make for coaches and players being able to kind of rally after a loss, knowing that you don't have to maybe rely on help like you did before once you took a loss, if your goals are to be in the postseason in a big spot, whether it was the 14 playoff or just the whatever the national BCS or whatever they threw out. Does it make it easier to be like, okay, guys, you can flush this one. We just can go full steam ahead now after that?
Without question. I think you can look at a couple of teams. Number one, look at Arizona State losing to Mississippi State. Look at TCU losing to Arizona State. There's some games in there that I like the numbers, because you know what? In the SEC, there's a lot of even teams. I'm telling you, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Florida beat Texas this weekend. A&M doesn't have an easy one. Jeff Levy, they lost the game. I don't know if you knew this, but on a pick six, they scored. Tennessee got it to overtime on a pick six. That just was a bad play. I think there's a lot of even teams, and the 12 teams are going to be still hard to pick, but it gives everybody a chance.
Let me ask you about Levy. They're playing at A&M, as you mentioned, this weekend. Golly, they had such a great start, and they just couldn't hold on. And eventually, they gave Tennessee everything, but just not quite enough. Is there a concern that they could not break but falter because of the schedule, or do you feel like he's got them in a pretty good spot?
From what I saw a year ago, they're much better. I mean, the Shaping kid is really good. They're running the ball. His portal guys are being effective. He's better on defense. I would think if I'm in there today and start from Mississippi, hey, I'm preaching. Hey, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. Just think about this. They had 2 turnovers. One of them was a touchdown, and one of them was close. I mean, that's 14 points. Just protect the football, and they've just beaten Tennessee at home.
Do you think that that Georgia has enough offensive juice skill-wise to break out of that? It seems like they're still not quite there in rhythm when it comes to that like they were last year.
I think Georgia's problem is their defensive line, Craig. They're not dominant like they were. I mean, once they got well, do you remember how well when they went to Austin, when those kids got back after Alabama had beat them, they became an animal. I mean, their front is not what it's been. And people can say, well, they're not covering good either. Well, don't you think that it sort of goes hand in hand, right? Mm-hmm. If that quarterback's got people in his face and worrying about getting the ball off, then you're not going to be as good downfield. I think I'm sort of impressed. Offensively, they weren't supposed to be great, but listen, their issue, they had a chance to win that game the other day. I thought it was a bad coaching decision by Kirby not to tie the game up.
Did you ever coach in a game that was so physical like Alabama, Georgia, and others? Did you ever coach in a game as close as you were to the field that you almost felt sore hearing and watching the collisions in the game itself, the way it was played? Did we lose him?
I remember. Barn burners.
Okay, there you go.
Last play of the game, and it literally was so physical that I told Coach Snyder, I said, we can't do anything tomorrow. I said, these kids are, I have. And I believe that. I believe that kids, and Georgia is a physical team. That was a physical game with Alabama.
Phil, what did you think about Tony Elliott and Virginia and the upset they pulled the other night?
Wow. He's probably hoping Morris has got one more year. I mean, that would be year 10, right? He would be a 10th-year senior.
Would feel like it.
They really they played hard. They made the plays, and it was an exciting game. I mean, it was never over till it was over.
Yeah, you're right. I was listening to a game, and Phil, thank you very much, man. Take care of yourself, physical fitness and rehab and all that. I was listening to the game between Wake Forest, Georgia Tech, and damn, Georgia Tech did it again. But they said the quarterback, I'm forgetting his name, Robbie Ashford, said he started at Oregon or went to Auburn. And he's been at 4 schools in 4 years. Is that really what we want in college football, or it's because they waited so long to let the hay out of the barn? That's just the way that most people want it.
My opinion is we don't want to piss anybody off. Want everybody to be participants and be happy. The rules are irrelevant, and that's not the way it was meant to be.
Thank you, man. Appreciate your time. Phil Bennett.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. 45 years college football. It's been everywhere. A lot of schools throughout the Power Fours and more. We appreciate his time. And first of all, glad he's doing okay. When I called last week, he had just had the surgery. Julia's wife said, hey, he forgot to tell you, so it's glad to have him. Good to have him back. Absolutely have him back. Old Barncat wanted me to ask who was going to win the game, Baylor and K-State. And that's one you could like slice it with I don't know, envelope opener.
Right now, I think it's very much a toss-up game. I think I'd lean Baylor right now at home, and I haven't checked to see what the spread is. See, I can actually see it here. Baylor 6.5-point favorites.
Are they really?
Yeah. I think they're, based on what we've seen so far, I think they're a better overall team. But I don't think that there's such a disparity that this would be some huge upset. I will lean Baylor right now. Better quarterback play. Leaky defense, though. So this could be a game where if the Wildcats have their ducks in a row offensively, I think Avery could have success running the football if he so chooses. I think Dylan Edwards can have some success running the football so long as he's still healthy. And I think they can score some points. I just don't know, can they stop Baylor from scoring a bunch of points too? Because that's one thing they're good at. And of all the units that we'd be measuring against one another or in totality, the Baylor offense would grade at the top of any side on either side, right? Like of the best unit of any of the 6 that you could pick from. So yeah, I'd go Baylor right now, but would not be shocking to see Kansas State roll in and win this football.
Do you remember that game? What was the game in which K-State came in here, and it was a big game, and they beat Baylor like it was
like 2022 is when the whole slide started.
35-3 or whatever. Yeah, just mauled them.
Right now, if you're K-State, you don't have to come up with you give the ball to Dylan Edwards, get Avery Johnson running. I mean, I like
within reason.
Within reason, yeah. I mean, that it's pretty simple to keep Baylor on their heels on defense. Now, your defense has to keep pace and stop them from scoring, which not many people really have so far.
I think look at this Oklahoma State game where it was very much back and forth, just score fest. I think that could be something similar, except for I think K-State's got enough dogs, enough talent to be able to keep pace and to match for longer than Oklahoma State was. Like I knew at the Oklahoma State game that unless Baylor just threw up all over themselves, they were eventually going to pull away. Like I just felt like there was just too much of a disparity outside of just shooting yourself foot over and over again that they weren't going to eventually pull away like they did. I don't think there's that same level of disparity between them and Kansas State. So yeah, right now I'm expecting a shootout. Slight advantage to the Bears, who have a bit better of an offense overall. But Avery Johnson could have a huge game against this defense. Like he throwing and running.
Like with Jackson Arnold, the way he ran in that game against Auburn, against this Baylor defense, and I know some others have kind of, we've seen it with Levitt too. Not like Arnold, but Levitt too. Yeah, they gotta get a hold again. Johnson has not exploded. It's been a while, and he might be looking at that, and now Dave Aranda and company with their defense has to find a way to try to see if they can contain him this weekend. Game at 11 o'clock, ESPN Plus at McLean Stadium. When we come back, the top 5, we have quizzes, we have poll results, and are we spinning the wheel?
Yes.
We'll spin the wheel and more. This is 365 Sports. Ideal, MRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in the southern part of Waco. Saw couple of people at the shower. Jennifer had a shower, she and Daniel, for the incoming baby that's due in the next month. And a couple people had like back braces, had a knee brace. And I said, what happened? And of course, they just injuries of getting older or slipping or whatever. And they talked about MRIs. And I asked one, I said, so how much was your MRI? And it was like $1,350 or whatever it was. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in Waco is $497 or less every single time. It might be less, depending on if they file insurance, and maybe you even get less off the $497. The average MRI is $1,100. $1,100, and you can get it for much more than 50% off. And it's a state-of-the-art imaging machine. Your doctor turns in the order or the request. You go see Ideal MRI. They'll call you for the appointment. And when you're done, you'll get the images. Your doctor gets the images, and they'll know what to do next or give you the diagnosis and the game plan. IdealMRI.com.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. Let's talk about the Arkansas candidates. Sam Pittman's tenure is no more. And before I get into the Arkansas candidates, I would like to speak directly to the Arkansas brass. Look, Bobby Petrino's trying to trick you right now into thinking that he can fix it. He can't. He can't. It's fine for the rest of the year. You made the decision to bring him on. He can't fix it. He can't fix you. So just don't. Just don't. Do it. I know, like, there's some of you like, oh, he's different from the motorcycle accident and the philandering. He's a different guy. He's not. And it's the same, just older and less effective. Don't do it. Okay, let's get into some realistic candidates now while we're at it. Number 5, Ryan Silverfield from just across the border in lovely Memphis, Tennessee, the place of my birth. So there can be nothing wrong with it. It's essentially the promised land. Anyhow, Ryan Silverfield has done a fantastic job at Memphis. Year over year, his offense has improved. His defense has improved. His record's gotten better and better. And guess what team he beat a few weeks ago? Arkansas. What do you know? Brilliant choice here, if I do say so myself. And I do, because I came up with it. But even still, Ryan Silverfield's someone they need to look at. Let's stay in the G6 right now and go to Alex Golish. He has built a lot in South Florida. He is doing a great job in Tampa. We know that. He's afraid to go toe-to-toe with no one. He comes from the Josh Heupel coaching tree, so he's got some SEC juice to him. He can hang in the SEC, and he would be a fun coach and bring a fun system to Arkansas. And if you can keep Talon Green in the fold after this year, that is a quarterback he can work really well with. See Byron Brown, who is a larger version of Talon Green. Number 3, Jeff Traylor. This guy has East Texas ties. And look, I assume that most of our audience knows this, but there is not a high school football coach in the Lone Star State that does not respect the hell out of Jeff Traylor. And Arkansas is going to get most of their marquee players out of Texas, particularly East Texas, where he is from. He can hunt that fertile ground really, 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 really well. That's a lot of reallys because it's true. Garrett is nodding along with me right now. Jeff Traylor can dominate recruiting in East Texas. Guess who else dominates recruiting in East Texas? Texas A&M and LSU. What are they? In your conference. You need somebody who can take a chunk out of those teams. Texas also does really well in East Texas. He can go into that region and essentially own it if you give him the resources to do it. And he's a damn fine football coach and a hell of a guy. Number 2, John Sumrall. I've given you 4 G6 head coaches and not one Power 5 head coach. Now, look, they may try to get a Power 5 head coach or Power 4 head coach, and that's coming with the next one. But John Sumrall has got SEC juice to him as well, and Tulane plays vicious defense. He'll fit in really well with the culture in Fayetteville. He would do a great job. And don't think that Kentucky is not hoping that Arkansas doesn't want to talk to him, because I think when Mark Stoops gets canned, that's their number 1. And number 1, Rhett Lashley at SMU. He is an Arkansas boy through and through. He's very prideful about his upbringing in Arkansas. Loves the state of Arkansas. Is it SMU where they have a ton of resources? So much so they don't care how much money they're making. They don't. You know why? Because they've already made all the damn money. They have so much money. But guess who else has money and lives in SMU's neighborhood and is an Arkansas alum and is probably not going to be on this earth for very much longer because he's in his 80s and wants to see his alma mater, who he won a national championship with, the last national championship they won, do well. If you haven't figured out it's Jerry freaking Jones, then I don't know what to do for you. But Jerry Jones, big Rhett Lashley advocate here, and he can be the Tyson Chicken Man to the football team and make sure that this happens. He does not have to go far to talk to him. Jerry Jones lives in Highland Park in Dallas. SMU is in Highland Park in Dallas. He could do it while he's walking the damn dog. That is how close it is and how much SMU will be white-knuckling Rhett Lashley for the rest of the season as long as the Arkansas job is open. Well, that's going to do it for us. Andrew Valade with the sprinkles coming up right now.
Well, not yet, because we have Super Chats. Diesel, thank you so much. UCF and Cincinnati, hard to watch. The Big 12 is legit. If those two teams went away, as an SEC fan, I would not lose any sleep. The only conference to survive without blue bloods. Very impressive conference.
Yeah, appreciate you as always, Diesel. Been good to have you a part of the ride here, especially of late. And, I think that was a really nice win for Cincinnati. A really nice win for them. Brennan Sorsby's a legit quarterback. If he had another year of eligibility, I would not be surprised to see a bunch of people coming at him trying to sway him with some dollar signs. I very much feel like he could make some big money that way. But I think he's also got a little bit of NFL time he's going to be able to spend as well. And, UCF, I never got too high on the direction they were heading, but I think it was a little bit of a reality check this past weekend. We didn't talk much about them, but just playing a team that you knew was going to be better and didn't have any sights on them, running the table or anything like that. But you thought that maybe with K-State bleeding a little bit that they could go take advantage of it. And I just felt like K-State was going to rebound because UCF's not some great team. So I wasn't surprised by that result. But yeah, I mean, appreciate the kind words and glad you're enjoying what we're doing. And definitely some teams that need to pick the weight up a little bit.
Yeah, no, some of the incoming have made their mark and some of the others are trying to maybe find their way. All right, Diesel, thank you very much. Dustin Archambault, he's a big Oklahoma State fan. They looked exciting again. Most yards since Texas Tech last year. Nice to see a head coach fired up and involved emotionally. They threw the kitchen sink at Baylor. They expected that, and it kind of kept them involved in the game.
Yeah, I think it was kind of what I expected from the standpoint that you knew the kitchen sink was going to be thrown and some wrenches and some pipes, like anything they could get their hands on, because just from a talent standpoint, there is a disparity there right now. But I figured the home crowd would be a nice factor because they were the week prior when they had no reason to be. Now they have even more of a reason to be supportive and loud and crazy and know that it's just balls to the wall. Whatever happens from here on out is just fun until the new head coach is hired. There's no expectations. There's no expectation to win anymore the rest of this year. So just go out and let it hang and have fun. And that's what it looked like Oklahoma State was doing on Saturday. And they made a game of it there for a good long while. I wasn't surprised Baylor eventually separated, but that went deep enough that you kind of wondered, like, oh, crap, are they going to separate here, or is Oklahoma State going to get a big win? You play like that, you will find a win or two, I think, with the remainder of this schedule. So, yeah, just keep the positive vibes going. Be excited about what's to come. I think that was a very promising showing, and I think what you also got with the firing of Grantham was not only the writing on the wall there, but just another sign of, like, we're clearing the slate and we're moving forward in this totally new direction, and I think that's a good thing and that's an exciting thing, I believe, for Oklahoma State fans.
Yeah, Oklahoma State fans, it's loud and it's a hard place to win, although not lately because they just haven't been very good. All right.
Wheel time.
Sounds like a Formula One racer.
Okay. What is your walk-up song?
Well, mine's easy. It's kind of mine is Smoke on the Water.
Okay, good deal. Craig?
This changed a lot when I was growing up, but a song I came across randomly for the first time in a long time, I just think has the great beginning, which is all you need. It's like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So it was My Own Summer by Deftones, or also called Shove It is the other alternative title. And I just love the beginning of it. Like, I would be in the zone going up to the plate. So yeah, My Own Summer by Deftones would be my choice right now for a walk-up song, or something like Mystical Man Right Here would be a good one. I love that beat. So that would be a second choice.
99 Problems would be mine.
Okay.
I mean, like, you just got to be a little bit of it. Yeah, but 99
When
Problems.
you said 99, I thought it would be 99 beers on the wall.
No, 99 Problems.
I had a friend in high school that came out to Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash.
Oh, that's good.
But but after a whole season, it's like, dun, 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 you're just like, okay, kill me. Like, I love Johnny Cash, but
the Rangers,
those horns, man, after a while.
The Rangers play that when the bases are loaded.
Do they?
Yeah,
I didn't even pick up on that.
When the bases are loaded and they come out to talk to the pitcher, whether they're pulling them or not.
I never noticed.
Yeah, they play Ring of Fire, which I always thought was pretty clever. So.
No, that is with the bases, juiced. Okay, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. No, it was a great choice. It's just after you've heard it a few times, it's like, okay, if those horns blow again, it means we're doing well. But kind of took some of the fun out of the song for me. But yeah, that's what I would go with.
Daryl Strawberries was Cocaine Blues by Johnny Cash.
Was it
no,
really?
I was going to say that's on the nose.
There's the
that's on the nose, literally.
Yeah, he and Gooden could walk out to the same song.
Yeah.
All right, now we have Paul on the screen. Here are the trivia quiz questions today. This college football program has won the most NCAA recognized national championships in the highest division, totaling 18 titles. We talk, college football. We're not talking about everything else. Alabama, Yale, Notre Dame, and Michigan. Well, Yale is just staring right at us.
It's one of the top two. I just don't remember if Alabama's actually passed Yale's pre-World War II title.
See, this
total.
is Roger.
World War I.
Or pre-World War I
Yeah,
total.
This is Roger saying that anything after, like, you mentioned things changed after desegregation, but it's just jumping out in our face. It's got to be Yale, right? I've seen Alabama win about 8 or 9 or 10
Okay, does NCAA recognize matter here as well?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah.
I feel like it's Alabama. If it's NCAA recognized, I think it's Alabama.
Well, when did the NCAA start?
Let's go Alabama.
1800s? Okay.
Yeah.
Damn it. You're talking. I didn't even get a chance to rebut. God, I had it. They're just too obvious.
Yeah, they haven't won since 1927.
You young kids need to be more patient.
And they didn't play a lot of games back then either.
Well,
of course, people would just die regularly.
Yeah.
So
to go 3-0. Okay, and another one. At just 33 years old, this head coach became the youngest to win a college football national championship. Who?
Newt wasn't old.
Switzer was a young assistant when he took over from Chuck Fairbanks in the early 70s.
Newt Rockne was not old, though, when he took over at Notre Dame. Like, he wasn't like he's one of those guys who, and of course it was the 30s and all that. So like everybody looked 25 years older than they actually were. Like when you were 33, you looked 58 back then.
Yeah.
So
Danny Ford in 1980 or whenever that year they beat Nebraska to win the national title, he was a pretty young whippersnapper. The name that jumped out at me was Barry Switzer, but you want to?
I want to say Newt Rockne.
Okay, Craig.
I don't have a strong feel in any way. I feel like it's going to be the least obvious name, though, and probably be Danny Ford, because the other ones seem like I don't remember reading anything about Barry or Bud being the youngest head coaches. I don't know enough about Newt Rockne, though, to know whether that might have been the case or not. But what did you say yours was?
Well, he was pretty young, but I don't know if he was 33 young as Switzer, because he won a national title like a year or two after he took over.
Or unless Paul has,
you make.
I mean, like I feel really,
you guys have been wrong already.
Yeah, I know. I've already been wrong. We've already been wrong. I feel really strongly about Newt Rockne.
All right,
I really do.
Well, here we go. Danny.
It's like one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, this is getting to be a little more difficult than we wanted it to be, but I love it. We didn't know. Good for him. Beat Nebraska in the 1981 Orange Bowl, 12-0, with the win against the Huskers. And so Danny Ford. Good one, Andrew. Very nice. I like it. Made us think a little bit.
Today.
I'm going to have to look up what Switzer was or Rockne and other. All right. Here are the poll results. Is Penn State still a top 10 team? 59% angry at them.
I mean, I'm fine with it being a
I'm
top 10 team.
Totally fine with them being in the top 10 right now. I am a-okay. They lost in double overtime to maybe the best team in the country. Yes, it was at home. Yes, it required a fourth quarter rally of double digits, but I still think they're pretty damn good. And it's not even so much of like, are they perfect? No, but are they still better than most every other team out there? Yes, I think that they are. Yeah. So I'm fine with them being top 10.
Here's the argument, okay, if there is one, that why were they in the top 10 in the first place?
Because of the preseason.
Okay. They've beaten Nevada, FIU, and Villanova. So are they still in the top 10 because they lost to Oregon, who we know is pretty good and better? Maybe.
Okay, well,
I'm just looking at the other way.
No, I know, but I'm saying if we're going to do that, who's right behind them? Texas. Who has Texas beaten?
No,
we can do that.
There might be 5 or 6 that should be, but all right.
Maybe it's too early to have a top 10.
Imagine
outside
that.
Of
Imagine.
that. I think that's where the whole preseason gripe we got to run, but that's where it does set the table. Whether you agree that it does or not, it sets the table, and then the table takes a while to rearrange once the results come in. So there's some benefit of having started so highly for Penn State for sure. But I think you watch that team, and I don't think there's a ton of teams that are better than them either. So
Barry Crawford, by the way, said Bama claims 18. Officially, there are 14. And then somebody said, who is Danny Ford? I thought it was that far back. It was Henry Ford. Oh, God.
1980. That wasn't
very
that long.
nice, Andrew.
That was 1980. Wasn't that long ago?
That's us old guys now saying that. Oh, it was 1980. It was just yesterday.
I think it was 1981.
Either way, wasn't that long ago. I was born in 1980.
All right, who else do we have? Is that it?
Yeah. Should NFL games be allowed to end?
I'm sorry. Should NFL games be allowed?
It's getting worse by the day with you.
Absolutely not. No, they should not end in ties. I heard this from a good friend of mine. Europe and their sports, they love ties. Okay. They play a sport in soccer that scoreless or whatever. They almost relish in that.
I don't know if they relish in it, but they know how to deal with it. Yeah.
The Ryder Cup could have ended in a tie. The winner of the last one, of course, then retains it if they're tied. We get 14 points. I don't think NFL games should end in a tie. No.
So what was the point with the Europe thing? Just that they're cool with it, or?
Well, I mean, do NBA games end in a tie?
No, of course not. So I'm asking where that was going.
No, you think about the sports that have ties, and I think hockey, they do, right, Garrett?
No, they go
but now, but now even then you have ties that are half wins or whatever, the way they do the standings.
Yeah, I mean, they do, but I mean, it's also totally different sport. Anyways, the question is, should an NFL game end? No, I don't think an NFL game should end in a tie. Absolutely not. I don't see the point in playing the game if it just ends in a tie. But I see where soccer and hockey are much older and they have different rules, but should not be the case for American football.
Should Green Bay fire Matt LaFleur tomorrow because he played for one last night? Sure. That's another poll question. I could not believe what he was doing at the end of that game. They had it won.
You and I, why don't we need to admit how late in the night we were texting each other, but that like, who won last night? Nobody. Did anyone feel good about that? Probably not. Even the Cowboys who weren't expected to win. All right, there we go. Andrew Valet, thank you very much. Continue. We got to keep score of Andrew and against us and our win-loss record and see if there's any ties. Garrett, thank you very much. Rip City hat on. And also Brandon Rowe closing in on a big-time event that we'll get to later in the week. Thank you all. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. You handled FSU very well. One extra day before we came back helped. Greg, thank you. Thank you to our great sponsors and everybody that watches on Twitter or on YouTube. I'm David Smoak. Good night, 365 Sports.